Chapter 240. The flaming bar's voice sounded in Ji Dong's soul. This magic master has completely given up on advancing to 9 crowns. He stimulated his brain with mana and increased his spiritual power to a certain level, which allowed him to have such control. In addition to not being able to advance to 9 crowns, he can engage in any close combat. His body is so fragile that it's not even comparable to a 6 crowns magic master. By giving up like this, he's pursuing a kind of extreme control. If he met you, he'd be dead by now. The flying serpent flash plus your body's defense, the explosive power of the 2 monarch skills, and the instantaneous close-range attack power of the god-slaying strike are enough to kill him instantly. The flaming bar's explanation could be said to be concise. Ji Dong was not stupid and immediately understood. Using mana to stimulate the soul and increase one's spiritual power was easy to say, but it definitely had to be carried out through some secret method. The human brain was the most mysterious and the most fragile. If one was not careful, the price to pay would be his life. At the very least, he would become an idiot. The Magic Skills Guild was indeed unique to be able to cultivate such a magic master. The mana that had been compressed to colorless and transparent in the air finally condensed into a point. A distorted light wave flashed in the air and flew towards Fury again. At this time, the extreme Yang Thunder mana condensed on Fury's battle axe had also been completed. The battle axe was raised high above his head, and in the sound of a thunderclap, terrifying mana bloomed instantly. A huge purple crystal thunderball with a diameter of more than 3 meters broke through the air and flew straight in Wolfer's direction. Their accumulated attacks had been completed. There was no doubt that on the surface, Wolfer's control of mana far exceeded Fury's. The next thing to see was the defensive power of both sides. Whoever could block the opponent's attack more easily would have the absolute upper hand. Fury was wearing full body armor, and his face was covered by a helmet. No one could see his expression at this time. At the same time he released the thunderball, the transparent 9th water crystal had already arrived in front of him. Colorless and transparent. What did this mean? It represented the extreme 9th water. That's right, Wolfer himself was not an owner of extreme mana. However, he used his powerful control of mana to forcibly compress the released mana into a point. Not only did it have an extremely terrifying explosive 9th water mana, but it had also reached the level of extreme mana. To be able to become the vice president of the Magic Skills Guild, Wolfer's strength was extraordinary. Moreover, the huge gem at the head of the divine water staff in his hand was emitting dazzling light. Hello felt a chill down his spine as he watched from below. He knew that if it were him, even if he could block Wolfer's attack, he would definitely be completely suppressed. Wolfer's strength had already exceeded his imagination. It was obvious that the Magic Skill Guild had been preparing for today's competition for a long time. If it weren't for the sudden appearance of the 4 Supreme Masters, the Magic Skill Guild would definitely be doomed in today's battle. After both sides released their attacks, they didn't stop. At the same time, they launched their next move. On Wolfer's side, his whitewater divine gull moved quickly. Its huge body displayed astonishing agility. It didn't fly rapidly to avoid the thunderball that was flying towards it. Instead, it moved quickly and irregularly in the air, up and down, giving off an unfathomable feeling. On Fury's side, it was the exact opposite. The purple thunder heavenly dragon spread its wings in the air and floated there motionlessly. It even retracted the omnidirectional defense that was previously protecting its body. At this moment, Fury and his purple thunder heavenly dragon gave off the feeling that they were one with one. A loud shout came from Fury's mouth. Immediately after, a huge round totem appeared behind him. In the totem, the image of the purple thunder heavenly dragon spread its wings and roared. It could be clearly seen that the purple color around Fury's body suddenly became denser, as if there were bolts of lightning being injected into his body. This is... Ji Dong's heart that was hanging in the air finally calmed down. Others might not recognize what this round totem was, but how could he not recognize it? It was the condensation formation of the 5 elements formation. Senior brother didn't waste 4 years. Back then, the 5 elements formation that Ji Dong learned in the underground palace was of the fire element. There was no 5 elements formation of the lightning element there, so Ji Dong imparted all his fire element formation to Fury. After 4 years, it was obvious that Fury had a deep understanding of the 5 elements formation and had converted it into his own ability. The Thunder Emperor was terrifying to begin with. He possessed the ultimate Yang Thunder and the Hell Thunder Divine Act. Coupled with the 5 elements formation, Ji Dong had reason to believe that with his senior brother's strength, he would have a chance to escape unscathed even if he were to face a supreme powerhouse. The upper body of the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon was suddenly raised, and the Yang Thunder condensation formation instantly erupted with a terrifying concentration of mana. This wasn't a technique, but a complete difference in the understanding of mana. Fury held the huge battle axe in his hands with both hands and arched his entire body backward. He became one with the dragon and swung the axe down with all his might. He didn't use any fancy moves. He chose to face it head-on. In the sky, the Thunder Emperor and his Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon seemed to have disappeared. All that was left was a purple thunderbolt. Amidst the loud bang, the purple thunderbolt had already bombarded the thousands of compressed 9 crystal light. An indescribably terrifying mana suddenly erupted with Fury's body as the center. One could clearly see a circle of purplish-black mana instantly spreading in mid-air. Be it Fury's demon domain or Wofo's demon domain, both were instantly wiped out. The huge body of the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon was also sent flying by this huge force. They tumbled in the air, and layers of purple aura continuously erupted from their bodies. Ultimately, Fury's axe was still no match for the 9 magical power that was under extreme control. In this collision, he was already at a disadvantage. The Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon was sent flying for almost 1,000 meters before it could barely stabilize its body. The battle axe in Fury's hand had already disappeared. The metal fragments in the air scattered in all directions. It was obvious that they had been shattered by the light that was condensed to an extreme level. Seeing this scene, Shui Mingyue's face couldn't help but reveal a proud expression. No one knew Wofo's strength better than him. Even if it was a sovereign expert like him, it wasn't like Wofo didn't have the ability to retaliate when he sparred with Wofo. Based on his almost obsessive control, Shui Mingyue would need a certain amount of time and caution to subdue him. The crystal light that had been compressed thousands of times seemed simple, but in reality, it was already extremely close to the level of a single-target ultimate killing technique. Shui Mingyue was sure that Fury was already injured, and it was very likely that he had suffered a serious injury. So what if he was a genius student of the Heavenly STEM Academy? So what if he was an extreme Yang Lightning? In terms of absolute control over techniques, who could compare to my Magic Skills Guild? Compared to Shui Mingyue's pride, the Magic Masters of the Magic Masters Guild couldn't help but frown. Even Shangguan Yinkong and Ji Zhangxin were the same. Only the siblings Yin Zhaoyang and Yang Zhaoyang's expressions didn't change, as if the battle in the sky had nothing to do with them. Fury had relied on brute force to neutralize his opponent's attack. On the other side, FOFO was also displaying his incomparably powerful dodging ability to the crowd. The White Water Divine Gull made a dodging movement in midair that caused everyone to be stunned. Fury's lightning ball had obviously locked onto FOFO. As a technique, the lightning ball's absolute speed was clearly above that of the White Water Divine Gull, a magical beast that specialized in speed. Although it wasn't a direct attack of lightning, the energy contained within the lightning ball was clearly more terrifying. However, every time the lightning ball approached the White Water Divine Gull under the guidance of its target, the White Water Divine Gull would suddenly change directions from an unexpected angle just as it was about to unleash its power. The lightning ball would also temporarily lose its target and stagnate in the air. It was this simple stagnation that caused it to be unable to catch up to the white water divine gull. It could only continuously follow behind the white water divine gull. At first, the white water divine gull was flying into the distance, but for some reason, after a few turns, it circled back. Behind it, there was an electric ball chasing after it, but Wolfer, who was unscathed, once again rushed towards Fury's direction. As long as he defeated Fury, the lightning ball behind him would collapse on its own. Before that, FOFO was completely confident that the lightning ball wouldn't be able to catch up to him. Fury, I heard that you can release 7 lightning dragons at the same time. Why don't you release them? I'd like to see if your 7 lightning dragons can catch up to me. FOFO's voice echoed in the air. He was obviously trying to provoke Fury, but the dodging ability he displayed after merging with the white water divine gull was indeed amazing. In a battle between two powerhouses, one was blasted away by the opponent's skill and was likely injured, while the other did not even collide with the opponent's skill. Moreover, it seemed that while he was dodging, it wouldn't affect his next attack at all. The difference between the two was obvious. Everyone below could feel that Fury had been completely suppressed by Wolfer. I have to admit that the Magic Skills Guild's control of mana has indeed exceeded my expectations. It has also allowed me to understand a lot of things. However, Vice President FO, you seem to be a little too happy. Don't think that you've won, Fury replied calmly from the back of the Purple Thunder Heaven Dragon. Hearing his voice, FOFO was already taken aback. This was because he was surprised to find that Fury's voice was still full of energy. It didn't seem like he was injured at all. A trace of uneasiness spread in his heart, and Fury's next words caused his expression to change drastically. You're not the only one who can control it. This was what Fury said. At the same time that he said this, the ball of lightning chasing behind FO suddenly stopped. Immediately after, tens of thousands of lightning bolts instantly erupted. The target wasn't concentrated, but it covered an area with a diameter of several hundred square meters. No matter how strong the white water divine gull's dodging ability was, it was impossible to dodge this kind of wide-area attack. Furthermore, the attack was coming from behind. Who would have thought that the huge ball of lightning chasing behind FOFO wasn't a single target attack at all, but a wide-area attack? Furthermore, it was a wide-area attack that could be targeted at any time. It was also launched at the moment when FOFO was the most relaxed. If FOFO's control of mana far exceeded Fury's, then Fury's psychological control wasn't something Wofu could compare to. This Thunder Emperor, who had participated in the Holy and Evil battle 3 times and led the young soul masters of the 5 elements continent to the final victory, had rich combat experience. His initial defense was merely a test of his opponent, and it was only now that Fury's attack could be considered to have truly begun. In the face of this sudden attack, Wofu roared angrily. He no longer cared about attacking Fury. He waved the Tianshui divine scepter in his hand, and the huge gemstone at the head of the scepter became completely transparent. Thousands of black rays continuously surged out of his body and collided with the lightning behind him. With his powerful mental strength, the black rays intercepted almost every lightning attack. The air was filled with the 2 special gases produced by the collision of water and lightning. Seeing this, the thoughts that had appeared in Ji Dong's mind surged again. His eyes flickered, and no longer knew what he was thinking. The Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon roared angrily at the sky. Fury pointed his right hand at the sky, and the demon masters below only felt the sky shake violently, as if it was about to collapse. Following that, a sparkling and translucent purple light shot out from between Fury's eyebrows. With the appearance of this purple light, the sun-lightning crown above his head shone brightly, and deafening dragon roars erupted continuously. Almost at the same time, a total of 14 lightning dragons instantly erupted from Fury's body. The 14 lightning dragons dispersed in the air, and flew in different directions, covering the sky and covering the sun. When the attack of the ball of lightning behind FOFO finally disappeared, he was shocked to discover that there were already figures of lightning dragons surrounding him and the white-water divine gull. Under Fury's powerful control, the 14 lightning dragons actually formed a spherical encirclement and forcefully enveloped the vice president of the Magic Skills Guild. "Who told you that I only have 7 lightning dragons?" Fury's disdainful voice reverberated in the air. At this moment, the entire sky had turned completely purple, the purple of pure lightning. Even the 6 Supreme Being powerhouses below felt waves of numbness on their skin. The 14 lightning dragons were already enough to contend against a Supreme Being powerhouse. If all their demonic powers were to erupt, it would be comparable to the might of a mid-level sure-kill technique. Furthermore, Fury, who was sitting on the back of the purple thunder heavenly dragon, looked completely fine, as if he hadn't used much of his demonic powers at all. Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Inkong's eyes were filled with disbelief. The couple looked at each other in dismay. It was only at this moment that they truly realized that the strength of this young man, who had never tasted defeat in the wholly evil battlefield, had actually reached such a terrifying level. Could it be that he had been hiding his strength all along, and had long since reached the level of a supreme being? Chapter 241. No one was clearer than Ji Dong about the origin of Fury's 14 thunder dragons. At this moment, the smile on his face could not help but widen. In 4 years, Fury's understanding of the 5 elements formation was obviously not limited to the condensation of the formation. He had also mastered the sustaining formation that could enhance his mana by several times. Although Fury was only a pure Yang Thunder, and could not sustain Yin and Yang mana at the same time like him, these 7 Thunder Dragons were enough to instantly double his mana. Even a supremacy powerhouse would feel pressured under such pressure, let alone Wofo, who had just resisted Fury's attack with all his might. The purple thunder heavenly dragon flew leisurely in Wofo's direction. Fury's voice echoed in the air. "Vice President Wofo, do you want to continue?" Without using the Thunder Divine Axe, Fury still completely suppressed Wofo. It was fine if he did not move, but if he moved, he would definitely win. Wofo's control of mana was indeed amazing. However, in the face of the huge mana released by Fury, which he could not contend against, what else could he do? Wofer's expression was the same as that of the 2 water supreme being experts below. His face was ashen, and the hand that was holding the Tianshui staff was even trembling slightly. He could not believe that he had been defeated so miserably, and his opponent was only a 7-crown demon master. He had pursued ultimate control for so many years. Was he really defeated just like that? He did not want to believe it. He really did not want to believe it. However, the attribute suppression emitted by the 14 thunder dragons condensed from extreme Yang thunder had already caused the mana in his body to become dimmer and dimmer. He no longer had any chance to fight back. Even if he died, he would at most perish together with these thunder dragons. He would not be able to touch Fury's edge at all. "I lost." Wofo said these 3 words through gritted teeth. When these 3 words came out of his mouth, he seemed to have aged 10 years. His body swayed on the white-water divine gull's back. With a wah sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and there was no trace of human color on his face. The 14 thunder dragons quietly dispersed. If one paid close attention, they would discover that 7 of them directly returned to the sun crown on Fury's head. In terms of the application of the sustaining formation, Fury was no longer inferior to Ji Dong. After all, Ji Dong had wasted 4 years and had not had the time to fully understand the mystery of the 5 elements formation. The purple thunder heavenly dragon descended from the sky amidst the cheers of the Demon Master Guild. Fury sat on the dragon's back and bowed towards the 4 supreme masters on this side. He said, "Disciple, fortunately, I did not disappoint you." Yin Zhaoyang's expression did not change as he nodded. Only then did Fury ride on the purple thunder dragon to the side. Ji Zhangxin laughed heartily and said, "Brother Zhaoyang, I really admire you. You actually cultivated such a good grand disciple. Such an overwhelming victory. Why are you still not satisfied? Unfortunately, I've been looking for Yin Kong all these years. Looks like I should take a disciple as well." Yin Zhaoyang smiled and said, "I would be even more satisfied if he didn't use 14 thunder dragons in the end." Ji Zhangxin didn't quite understand Yin Zhaoyang's words. Ji Dong and Fury looked at each other. They both knew that their grandmaster was saying that Fury shouldn't have been able to defeat his opponent even with the life-sustaining matrix. Although Fury's magic power wasn't as strong as his opponent's, he had the ultimate magic power. Of course, Peifo also had level 18 strength. Coupled with his extreme control ability, if Fury did not use the mana accumulated by the life-sustaining matrix, he would not be able to defeat him in a short time. Fury rubbed his hands together in shame. He lowered his head and said to Ji Dong, "Junior brother, I've embarrassed myself. It's all up to you now." Ji Dong chuckled and said, "Senior brother, maybe I'll also need to use the perpetuation matrix. The magicians of the Magic Arts Guild really have an extraordinary understanding of skills. I'm also very inspired." At this time, Yin Zhaoyang looked over and said, "Ji Dong, come here." Ji Dong quickly walked forward and said respectfully, "Grandmaster." Yin Zhaoyang nodded at him and said, "Don't force yourself. Also, you don't have the restrictions of your senior brother. Do your best, understand?" "Yes," Ji Dong replied. Yin Zhaoyang's gaze swept past Ji Dong and looked behind him. When his gaze landed on the flaming bar and Jin, he couldn't help but show some doubt. The flaming bar nodded at Yin Zhaoyang and didn't say anything. Jin was still so cold. Other than the flaming bar, she wouldn't say anything to anyone. On the other side, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun's expressions were already extremely ugly. Shui Mingyue took the Tianshui divine staff from Wofu and looked at the pale Wofu. She sighed and said, "All right, this can't be blamed on you. It's Fury. That kid is too strong. It seems that the future belongs to these young people. If I remember correctly, Fury shouldn't be 35 years old yet. In my opinion, in less than 20 years, he can fight for the 9 crowns." Ling Fengyun said, "Mingyue, we can't afford to lose anymore. We must win the second round, and we must win beautifully." Shui Mingyue nodded and said, "Yin Zhaoyang proposed to win 2 out of 3 battles. He is obviously very confident. He has at least 2 trump cards in his hands. Fury is one of them. I don't know what the other trump card is, but if it's his disciple or disciple's disciple, then it must be a fire-type magician. I reckon that he will save the second trump card for the last round. In the second round, it is very likely that Shi Luo or an 8-crown magician from the Magician Guild will be sent out. The possibility of it being an Earth-type magician is very high. We should be more confident if we send out a Wood-type Sky Master." Ling Fengyun nodded and said, "At this time, we can only gamble. Let Tian Xie go up. His strength is comparable to Wofu. Although his equipment is slightly inferior, we can't care too much now. Let's use all the trump cards we can." Shui Mingyue shouted in the direction of the magician from the Magician Guild, "Where is Tian Xie? President?" A figure flashed out and revealed a handsome face. This person looked to be around 50 years old. His eyebrows were like swords, his nose was straight, and his mouth was square. He was extremely handsome. He was tall and had broad shoulders. He gave people a feeling of justice and awe-inspiring. Shui Mingyue took off a ring from her hand and with a flick of her finger, it landed on Tian Xie's hand. She said, "Take a look at what's inside. You will go up in the second round. You must remember, this is our guild's last chance. In the guild, you are the #1 Wood-type magician. If you win this battle, you will be the second vice president of the guild. You are a Wood-type genius and also a top student who graduated from the Yin Yang Hall of the Heavenly STEM Academy. You are only 60 years old, and you have broken through to the 8-crown realm. I believe that you will not disappoint me. Tian Xie wore the ring on his hand. With just a glance, his face was already filled with shock. He said, "Don't worry, President. Tian Xie will definitely try his best to win this battle and kill the opponent." Shui Mingwen nodded and said, "Go. Even if you have to use the things in the ring to smash, you have to win this battle for me." Tian Xie walked out from the side of the Magician Guild. With a step, he soared into the air. With a loud shout, a thick green light exploded. The unique aura of the wood type exploded in the air. A demon beast that Ji Dong was extremely familiar with appeared under Tian Xie. It was the Emerald Ground Lizard Dragon King, the same as the mount of the Extermination Army General Chen Long Ao. Seeing that the opponent was actually a wood-type magician, Ji Dong couldn't help but laugh. The Magician Guild was probably going to be erased from the continent. Dual ultimate fire against the first wood type. Ji Dong had already decided that he would not use the mana stored in his life-sustaining formation to obtain this victory. He wanted to prove to his master and master's wife that he did not waste these 4 years. Facing the high and mighty Tian Xie, who was riding on the Emerald Ground Lizard Dragon King, Ji Dong also walked out from the side of the Magician Guild. Seeing his appearance, the people of the Magician Guild were all stunned. Who would have thought that the Magician Guild would actually send out a youth that looked like he was only in his 20s to participate in such an important battle? Seeing the youth of the opponent, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun looked at each other. There was no joy in their expressions, only confusion. Why would Yin Zhaoyang and Ji Zhangxin send out such a young magician? Could it be that they were humiliating them? And from their conversation just now, this youth should also be Yin Zhaoyang's grand disciple, or even Ji Zhangxin's great-great-grandson. But no matter what, he only looked like he was in his 20s, so what if he was strong? Seeing Ji Dong walk out from the other side, Tian Xie couldn't help but be stunned. In his eyes, this youth didn't even have a demon beast mount, let alone a battle. "Little brother, you must have gone the wrong way. Magician, please come out for the second battle," Tian Xie said in a deep voice. It was impossible to say that he wasn't nervous. He definitely couldn't lose this battle, otherwise the Magician Guild would be finished. But thinking of the things in the ring, his heart calmed down a little. With those things as a guarantee, he wouldn't lose this battle. "I will be your opponent for the second battle," Ji Dong said indifferently. "You!" Tian Xie was stunned. He looked at Ji Dong with a strange expression, but the nervousness in his heart couldn't help but relax a little. Could it be that the Magician Guild was going to give up this battle? His luck was really too good. Fearing that Ji Dong would regret, Tian Xie immediately said, "Okay, I am Tian Xie, representing the Magician Guild, please." Ji Dong nodded at him and said, "Ji Dong, representing the Magician Guild, please." As he said that, he also made an inviting gesture. The next moment, the two of them released their yin-yang crowns at almost the same time. The difference was that Tian Xie released it on the back of his mount, the Emerald Lizard Dragon King, while Ji Dong released it on the ground. Tian Xie's magic power wasn't as high as Wofu's. 8 crowns, 2 stars, level 84 magic power, first wood element. With the release of the first wood sun crown, pieces of green leaf-shaped light circled around Tian Xie's body. Unlike Wofu, heavy armor covered the body of this 8-crown magician. Perhaps because all wood element magicians liked to use long spears, Tian Xie's weapon was also a huge dragon spear. Its length was similar to Chun Longao's, around 7 meters. Seeing him release his magic power, put on his armor, and take out his weapon, Ji Dong could not help but compare the strength of this opponent in front of him with that of Chun Longao. In terms of magic power, the two were almost the same. Their mounts were the same, and their magic weapons and equipment felt about the same. However, Ji Dong always felt that the opponent in front of him was lacking something compared to Chun Longao. Very soon, he thought it through. Compared to Chun Longao, Tian Xie lacked the aura. He lacked the perfect combination of Chun Longao's murderous aura and his own magic power that he had gained through constant training on the battlefield. Ji Dong could be sure that even if Tian Xie's magic skills were better than Chun Longao's, if the two of them fought, the final winner would definitely be Chun Longao. Ji Dong was looking at Tian Xie. Tian Xie and everyone from the two guilds were also looking at Ji Dong. Hilo, the vice president of the Magician Guild, only had one feeling in his heart, and that was rejoicing. Why did he take so much care and even flatter Ji Dong back then? The main reason was because of Ji Dong's identity and not his strength. Ji Dong's identity could be said to affect the whole situation. He had once participated in the incident of resisting the two Supremes from the Central Plains city. Hilo was very clear about how important Ji Dong was to Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong. In addition, the Prince of Equality had once said that Ji Dong was his own grandson. Hilo did not have the ability to contact Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, but he could contact the Prince of Equality effortlessly. After telling the Prince of Equality about the matter, Hilo said that Ji Dong was going to represent the Magician Guild. The Prince of Equality, Ji Yunxing, almost immediately told him that the Prince of Equality's family would intervene in this matter. At the same time, he also told Hilo that Celestial Dipper Ji Changxin would personally go. Of course, all of this was on the premise that Ji Dong would definitely participate in this challenge. If Ji Dong did not come, then everything would have nothing to do with the Prince of Equality. Hilo was only a vice president of a guild. In terms of intelligence, how could he compare to the Prince of Equality? He immediately believed it, which was why he was so anxious about Ji Dong's arrival. Not to mention anything else, with a powerhouse like Celestial Dipper Ji Changxin joining this matter, with the power of the Prince of Equality and the strength of His Majesty Celestial Dipper, it would be very difficult for the Magician Guild to please them. Moreover, Hilo had always been aware of the relationship between Ji Changxin and Shangguan Yinkong. In fact, even if Ji Dong did not participate in this matter, the Prince of Equality's family would definitely not sit by and watch the two guilds merge. From the perspective of the 5 great empires of the 5 Elements continent, none of the empires would hope for the two guilds to merge. The reason was very simple. The two special guilds each possessed enormous power. It could be said that they were the holy temples of the magicians. They could already influence the decision-making of a country. Once the two guilds merged, then this power would be something that no country could ignore. They would even be on equal footing. Which country would be willing to see such a strong power rise? That was absolutely impossible unless... Chapter 242. No country would be willing to see the merger of two major guilds. However, if the King of Equality were to represent the Middle-earth Empire to help the Magician Guild complete the merger, then the relationship between the newly established Special Class Guild and the King of Equality would be different. No one would be willing to see the rise of a powerful force, but who wouldn't be willing to have a good relationship with such a force, or even be controlled by them? Therefore, no matter what, Ji Yunxing would intervene in this matter, and would even persuade his grandfather to take charge of the overall situation. It was originally a difficult thing to convince Ji Zhangxin, but Ji Yunxing only laid out a fact, and Ji Zhangxin immediately compromised. Ji Yunxing's words to Ji Zhangxin were very simple. The Magic Guild was in such a huge crisis. As the president, would his grandmother sit by and do nothing? It was just such a simple sentence, and Ji Zhangxin came. However, Ji Yunxing didn't expect his grandfather's feelings for his grandmother to reach such a level. As soon as they met, he almost committed suicide to prove his innocence. Why would Hilo rejoice at this time? He never thought that Ji Dong would fight today. Although he heard that Ji Dong used a super ultimate skill in the last battle of Holy and Evil, he didn't believe it at all. It was said that Ji Dong didn't even have the strength of a quintuple champion at that time. Releasing a super ultimate skill at that level was just a joke. Even if he was an quintuple champion, he almost couldn't use such a powerful skill. Although he had some understanding of Ji Dong's strength, it was limited to the understanding of a young expert who surpassed his peers. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that Ji Dong would actually participate in this competition. Moreover, it would be an important battle where he would win 2 out of 3 matches. Yesterday, he had just gifted Ji Dong a pair of substandard divine weapons. Without a doubt, it would greatly increase Ji Dong's strength. Afterwards, when the other majesties asked about the origins of this pair of heavy swords, he would definitely feel proud. Moreover, no one would blame him. The president, the great-great-grandson of His Majesty Celestial Dipper, and the disciple of the 2 sovereigns of fire, this youth had too many halos. Looking at Ji Dong, Tianxie couldn't help but frown slightly. He was a little embarrassed to attack this young man in front of him. What did this young man have? Why didn't he even have magic armor or weapons? Not to mention a mount. However, this thought only lasted for an extremely short period of time before his gaze was attracted by the strange yin-yang crown on Ji Dong's head. The black and white yin-yang crown could be said to be unique in the entire Demon Master world. Even the siblings Yin-yang, Chaoyang and Fury, who were most familiar with Ji Dong, couldn't help but be stunned. The yin-yang crown above Ji Dong's head was already in a state where yin and yang intersected. No one could understand what this meant. Even yin-yang Chaoyang only thought of a possibility. What was this yin-yang crown? Black and white? Tianxie narrowed his eyes and raised his dragon spear. At this moment, Ji Dong, who was about 50 meters away from him, let out a long roar. A transparent halo was suddenly released from his body. However, when this halo was released, an even more shocking scene appeared. The black and white light spiraled out from Ji Dong's body, and the intense dual fire element rose in a spiral. Ji Dong's entire body seemed to have become transparent, extremely transparent. The few supreme beings all had the same thought. What a pure elemental body. Yes, the elemental body that Ji Dong released could only be described as pure. Transparent, pure, black and white. They could even vaguely see the dancing white flame in his chest. A green leaf that was flickering with green light lit up in front of his chest, blocking the dancing white flame in his chest. The intense green light actually erupted with a life aura that was even more powerful than Tianxie's. Regardless of friend or foe, everyone felt a sense of comfort when they sensed this powerful life aura. Without a doubt, that green leaf was the true essence of life that the Forest Demon Clan had comprehended for thousands of years, the core of life. A greedy light burst out from Tianxie's eyes. As a first wood element demon master, no one knew better than him how important the leaf hanging on Ji Dong's neck was to a wood element demon master. If he could have it, it would be equivalent to having a divine artifact. Be it him or any other wood element demon master, no one could resist such a temptation. Behind the greed was killing intent. Although Ji Dong's yin-yang crown was very strange, the yin-yang crown only showed that he had level 61 mana. There was a gap of 23 levels. Such a huge gap could not be made up for by some strange mana. Moreover, the kid in front of him had not released a magical beast mount yet. From Tianxie's point of view, Ji Dong did not have a magical beast mount at all. The reason was very simple. He had a very close relationship with several Supreme Masters. Although he had level 61 mana at such a young age and his future was limitless, this inevitably caused him to be picky about magical beast mount. Without a magical beast that could become a rank 10 mount in the future, how could he be willing? In Tianxie's heart, he had never thought that Ji Dong would have any chance of defeating him. Not to mention the strength of both sides. Thinking of this, Tianxie already had a plan in his heart. He said loudly, "Wait a minute, I have something to say." Ji Dong frowned slightly and said, "Please speak." The greed in Tianxie's eyes could not be concealed. After weighing the pros and cons in his heart, he said, "Little brother, how about we add some stakes to this match? In other words, the stakes." Stakes? Ji Dong couldn't help but laugh. He understood that the other party must have thought of him as a soft persimmon. There was no reason not to do this business that was delivered to his doorstep. He said, "Sure, Senior, what do you want to bet?" Tianxia said, "Let's bet on the necklace on your neck. This is obviously a magical equipment suitable for us wood element demon masters. If you lose, this necklace will belong to me." Ji Dong said calmly, "Then what if I win?" Tianxia sneered in his heart. "You can beat me?" He then pretended to be generous and said, "If you win, you can choose any equipment on my body. How about it?" Ji Dong laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. It was not a sincere laugh, but a mockery, a blatant mockery. Looking at his smile, Tianxia was displeased and said, "What are you laughing at?" Ji Dong's lips curled up slightly. "You want to exchange your broken metal for my core of life? I don't know if there's something wrong with my brain or yours. I think that even an idiot wouldn't say something like that." Tianxia said angrily, "Kid, how dare you call me an idiot?" At this moment, he realized that it wasn't just Ji Dong who was laughing. Everyone from the Magic Master Guild was laughing too. Thunder Emperor Fury mumbled to himself, "You really are looking for trouble. I want to see what you will use to exchange for my little brother's item." Ji Dong shrugged his shoulders and said, "You said it yourself, not me. If you want to bet, then please show some sincerity. Otherwise, please keep your mouth shut." Tianxia hesitated for a while and said resolutely, "All right, then what do you think of this item?" He had already made up his mind to obtain Ji Dong's core of life. However, if he wanted to obtain the core of life, he definitely wouldn't be able to take it by force. Ji Dong had 4 supreme beings behind him, so even if he could defeat Ji Dong and snatch the core of life, he definitely wouldn't be able to leave the Azure Grassland. That was why he thought of this brilliant method, which was to make a bet with Ji Dong. Once he lost the core of life, those supreme beings wouldn't take it back. Young people were easily hot-blooded. As expected, Ji Dong was willing to bet with him. Tianxia was already smiling in his heart. Gritting his teeth, Tianxia transferred the dragon spear to his left hand. His right hand touched his waist and something appeared in his palm. Seeing this, the expressions of the evil masters on both sides couldn't help but change. It was a small white jade tablet that was rectangular in shape and only half the size of an adult's palm. However, when this white jade tablet appeared in his palm, every evil master's eyes were a little dazed. Even the Supremes couldn't help but slightly change their expressions. "Heaven Jade." Ji Dong's pupils contracted. Tianxia said in a low voice, "That's right. This is the Heaven Jade. How about it? This Heaven Jade is qualified to exchange for your child of life, right?" Ji Dong nodded and said, "All right, I'll bet with you." On the Demon Skills Guild side, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyue's expressions turned ugly. Shui Mingyue said in a low voice, "No wonder Tianxia's cultivation speed is so fast. He broke through to 8 crowns at the age of 60. So he actually has a Heaven Jade. With the help of this item, it might not be impossible for him to break through to 9 crowns in the future." Ling Fengyue glanced at him and said, "You people from the Demon Skills Guild are very secretive." Shui Mingyue frowned and said, "Let's settle the matter in front of us first." Tianxia took out the Heaven Jade. It was obvious that he planned to stake it all on one throw. Of course, he knew that Shui Mingyue would be extremely dissatisfied with him if he took it out. One must know that the Demon Skills Guild wanted to swallow up the Demon Skills Guild, mainly for the Demon Skills Guild's treasury and the 365 Chaos Green Brick. The Heaven Jade in his hand was even more precious than the Chaos Green Brick. Tianxia had already thought it through. As long as he won against Ji Dong and got the core of life, he would go far away. Anyway, after he defeated the opponent for the Demon Skills Guild, there was still a competition. Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyue couldn't leave this place. This short period of time was enough for him to conceal his identity. It wouldn't be too late to come out after he broke through to 9 crowns. Tian Xie turned his wrist and kept the heaven jade. He said, "All right, since you agree, let's begin." As he spoke, he had already shouted. The dragon's spear in his hand pointed forward. Strong first wood magic rose instantly. Green light covered his whole body, and he released his elemental body. Jidong's actions were interrupted by Tian Xie's words. At this moment, the core of life in front of his chest had already lit up again. Rich dual fire elements burst out unreservedly. A strong attribute suppression rushed towards Tian Xie. At the same time, a milky white halo flowed under his skin. A white light flashed behind his back. Two huge wings had already split apart. It was the dragon-snake transformation. Seeing a pair of wings suddenly appear on Jidong's back, the demon masters watching the battle were all shocked. They could clearly feel that Jidong's aura was increasing exponentially. Especially behind him, there was already a black and white yin-yang fish. There were two huge figures vaguely changing forms. Naturally, they couldn't see that Jidong had released his dual fire formation at this time. Extreme magic power, extreme dual fire? Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyan said almost at the same time. The two looked at each other and saw the horror in each other's eyes. As the big shots in the Demon Master world, it was also the first time they saw a Demon Master with yin and yang attribute. What was even more terrifying was that this yin and yang attribute was actually an extreme dual attribute. The strong magic suppression, almost in an instant, blocked the first wood pressure released by Tian Xie. His momentum was reversed, and he had the upper hand. Tian Xie's magic power was 23 levels higher than Jidong's. In this case, although the attribute suppression would have a serious effect on him, the relative impact was much smaller. He was also shocked by the extreme dual fire that suddenly ignited on Jidong's body. But in the next moment, he immediately responded. To be able to stay in the Demon Skills Guild until today, to cultivate to level 84, and to have once entered the yin-yang school, this first wood heavenly venerable was definitely not someone easy to deal with. Feeling the change in magic power on Jidong's body, he immediately released his own demonic territory. Green light burst forth in an overwhelming manner. His own magic power and the emerald ground lizard dragon king safely merged into one, causing the demonic territory to cover thousands of square meters in the blink of an eye. It forced away the suppression of the extreme dual fire attribute from Jidong. The emerald ground lizard dragon king also had wings. When it spread its wings, it took Tian Xie's body straight into the sky and moved towards Hyoheim. Tian Xie held the 7-meter dragon spear with one hand. With a flick of his wrist, the dragon spear had already transformed into a sky full of spear shadows. Although his attacks did not condense magic power like the Annihilation War God Chun Long Ao, his attacks were more fluid. One spear after another, there was no gap at all. The dense green light formed an inescapable net in the sky. He seemed to treat Jidong as a bird, and wanted to use his own attacks to capture this bird. Jidong was the first to soar into the sky. Seeing that Tian Xie had caught up to him, he could not help but reveal a cold smile. He thought to himself, "I'm sorry. Today, I'll let you be my test subject." When the core of life in front of his chest touched Jidong's soul fire, two earth-shattering dragon roars rang out at the same time. Jidong's body was already extremely strong, but at this moment, the extreme dual fire attribute on him exploded several times in an instant. It surged out like a volcanic eruption. The powerful release of the fire attribute forced Tian Xie, who had released his demonic territory, to slow down in the air. Chapter 243. Two enormous dragon heads seemed to have drilled out of Jidong's chest as they shot out of his chest. They were 12 meters long, had 2 heads, 9 claws, and were black and white in color. They were none other than the Heaven Evolution Flame Dragons, who had been quietly absorbing the life aura from the life core. With the appearance of the main body, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's roar became even louder. Hearing this roar, all the dragons that were below rank 9 all felt their bodies go soft. In the distance, the earth-shattering dragons of the Diamond Legion all lay on the ground, motionless. Tianxie, who thought he had the upper hand, only felt that the emerald ground lizard dragon king under him shook a little, as if its wings were soft, and it refused to fly up again. Tianxie tried his best to inject his first wood magic into the emerald ground lizard dragon king's body, barely stabilizing its mood. It must be known that his emerald ground lizard dragon king was a rank 9 magical beast, which was already the peak existence that this kind of magical beast could evolve. How was this possible? Not only did he have a mount, but it was such a powerful mount. What was this? Not to mention knowing it, they had never even heard of it. Seeing the sacred evolution fire dragon, Tianxie was not the only one who was shocked. The eyes of the 6 supreme experts present were attracted by the powerful existence that deterred tens of thousands of dragons. Of course, their eyesight was much better than Tianxie's. Judging from the sound and power, they could all tell that this was also a dragon, but it was a strange dragon that they had never seen before. It had 2 heads and no wings, but it could still soar in the sky. It seemed to have dual attributes, the same as Jidong. Even the mounts of the supreme experts, except for the soaring serpent and Yin Zhaoyang's fire dragon king, all showed some uneasiness after seeing it. Yin Zhaoyang looked at the sacred evolution fire dragon that Jidong was riding in surprise and said, "What kind of dragon is this?" It was actually so compatible with Jidong's attribute. Originally, I was still troubled about finding a mount for him in the future, but I didn't expect him to have already solved it himself, and in such a perfect manner. This giant dragon should only be at the 8th rank, but it was actually able to intimidate the other dragons. It had the demeanor of the leader of the dragons. Jidong, this fellow, was really capable of surprising people easily. "Old friend, do you know what kind of dragon this is? It should also be a member of your dragon clan." As they spoke, Yin Zhaoyang suddenly realized that there was something wrong with the flame dragon king beneath him. She raised her head and stared at the sacred evolution fire dragon. Her body was actually trembling slightly. Yin Zhaoyang had been with his mount companion for more than 60 years, so he knew her very well. She was definitely not afraid. She was excited. He had never seen her so emotional in so many years. That's my bloodline, the morning sun, that's my bloodline. She has mutated. That is my bloodline, my bloodline. As it spoke, the fire dragon king was about to soar into the sky. "Old friend, don't be anxious. What's going on?" Yin Zhaoyang pressed one hand on the head of the fire dragon king. He couldn't let his old friend disturb the battle in front of him. The fire dragon king was so excited that it kept roaring. Its body was constantly trembling. Excitement, uneasiness, anger, surprise, and all kinds of other emotions were constantly erupting from the dragon. Her 2 thick hind claws had completely dug into the soil. If it wasn't for Yin Zhaoyang suppressing her with all his might, she definitely wouldn't have been able to restrain herself. "Zhaoyang, don't stop me. That is my long-lost child. I can't be wrong. Even though her appearance has changed drastically and she has mutated, she still has my bloodline. I can't be wrong. I have been looking for my child for thousands of years. I beg you, let me go, let me verify it." Yin Zhaoyang comforted, "Old friend, don't be anxious. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt your child. She seems to be Jidong's magical beast companion now. Can you wait until the battle is over? It will only take a while. When the battle is over, I will go with you to verify it. Calm down first." I really can't calm down. Zhaoyang, after my child was kidnapped by that despicable bastard Feng Shuang, I have been looking for her for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. Do you know how much I miss my child? How can I stay calm when you're asking me to? Bear with it. If I didn't guess wrongly, Fire Dragon King, your child should have been saved. Moreover, I can also guess who saved her. Haven't you realized that your daughter already possesses talent that surpasses yours? If I'm not wrong, she should have been born not long ago. What rank were you when you were born? What rank is she now? The one who spoke was the soaring serpent beneath Enchantment. Looking at the sacred evolution fire dragon, this divine beast of fire that had lived since ancient times could not help but be filled with envy. After hearing the soaring serpent's words, the fire dragon king finally calmed down and said, "Are you saying that Ji Dong saved my daughter?" The soaring serpent shook its head and laughed. "Fire dragon king, has your little fellow's brain been fried? Although Ji Dong has extraordinary talent, he doesn't have the ability to save your child. Let alone him, even Yin Zhaoyang would not be able to help your child reach such a realm. Can't you see that your child already has the origin of chaos? This is something that we 10th rank magical beasts have always been pursuing. Although there are 6 peak human demon masters here, which one of them can do this? If you want to be grateful, then go thank her." As it spoke, the soaring serpent gestured towards the flaming bar with its mouth. The fire dragon king's gaze was cast towards the flaming bar. Previously, she had not noticed the existence of the flaming bar. In other words, among everyone present, other than Ji Zhangxin, Ji Yunxing, and Fury, the Thunder Emperor, only Yin Zhaoyang had slightly noticed the flaming bar. The flaming bar had concealed it too well. No one could feel the slightest ripple of magic from her body. It was precisely because of this that Yin Zhaoyang became suspicious. The flaming bar's gaze penetrated through the veil and just happened to meet the Fire Dragon King's gaze. When the Fire Dragon King felt the ripple of her gaze, her entire body could not help but tremble. A tremor from the depths of her soul caused her body to become unsteady. She swayed violently and almost knelt on the ground. Yin Zhaoyang's expression suddenly changed. He knew the Fire Dragon King's strength better than anyone else. Just who was this person who could cause his old friend to be in such a state with just a gaze? His gaze was cast towards the flaming bar for the second time, but it was not so friendly. "Calm down, all of you, calm down. I haven't lived long enough. I don't want to die yet. Don't ever provoke her." The soaring serpent hurriedly moved her body to block Yin Zhaoyang's gaze. She even said with some fear. Yin Zhaoyang asked in a low voice, "Senior soaring serpent, who is she?" The soaring serpent laughed bitterly and said, "Don't ask me. I can't tell you. All I can tell you is that in terms of longevity, I am not as good as her." That simple sentence was enough to cause the 4 refined martial artists to be greatly shocked. They had never imagined that there would be such a super-powerful being present. The soaring serpent continued, "You don't have to worry. In the human world, she is just like an ordinary person. She can't use her abilities, so you don't have to be afraid. Of course, if she is truly angered, I dare say that even if everyone here, including me, were to join forces, we still wouldn't be able to withstand her rage. However, that would also bring her great danger. Therefore, she will not make a move unless it is absolutely necessary. You don't have to look at her anymore. Stay calm and pretend that she doesn't exist. Wait until this competition is over. She has an unusual relationship with Ji Dong. Don't tell me you still think that Ji Dong's talent is something he was born with, and that she is the most qualified teacher to teach him." Silence. Yin Zhaoyang was silent. Yin Zhaorong had a look of disbelief on his face. Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong were at a loss. For a moment, the emotions of the 4 refined martial artists fluctuated to varying degrees. As for Flaming Bar, who was dressed in a long dress and wore a bamboo hat, her face covered by a veil, it was as if she had not felt anything. She still stood there quietly, looking up at the 2 parties fighting in the sky. While Yin Zhaoyang and the Fire Dragon King were conversing, the battle in the sky had undergone a drastic change. Facing Ji Dong's mount that had suddenly appeared, the First Wood Celestial Lord Tianxia had only paused for a moment because he was controlling the Emerald Ground Lizard Dragon King, but his attack had already caught up. Regardless of whether Ji Dong had a mount or not, he could not lose this battle. He could not afford to lose, not because of the Magic Skills Guild, but because of himself, because of that piece of heaven jade. His fighting spirit had reached an unprecedented peak. The 7-meter dragon spear weaved a large turquoise net in midair, enveloping both the sacred evolution fire dragon and Ji Dong within it. The ear-piercing sound of breaking through the air turned into a series of sharp whistles. The large net was by no means illusory. Every attack was not an illusion, but a real stab of condensed first wood demonic power. Tianxia's right arm could only be seen dancing in the air like a phantom. Standing at the point where the sacred evolution fire dragon's neck intersected, Ji Dong's spirit and demonic power were connected. Almost in an instant, Ji Dong had merged with the sacred evolution fire dragon, which was connected by blood and soul. 2 huge rays of light suddenly burst out from his hands. The left was black and the right was red. Each ray of light was more than 9 meters long. The incomparably thick rays of light seemed to cut through the sky and appeared in Ji Dong's hands. The dazzling brilliance changed the color of the world. The red was fierce and the blue was flame. It was Ji Dong's fierce and flame dual swords. In a flash, the fierce turned from red to gold, and the flame from blue to black. Ji Dong only felt that the sacred evolution fire dragon, himself, and the dual swords in his hands had completely merged into one. Under the support of the huge demonic power from the sacred evolution fire dragon, he could no longer feel the terrifying weight of the fierce and flame dual swords. 1 black and 1 gold, 2 shocking rainbows crisscrossed in the air. At this moment, it felt like the sky had been split apart. The fierce and the flame were like extensions of Ji Dong's arms. He had never felt so powerful before. All the fire elements in the world were condensing in his direction. The fierce and flame dual swords weren't just extensions of demonic power, but also an increase in demonic power. These 2 sub-god-grade super-heavy swords completely released the majesty of the fire attribute. The 2 huge rays of light that crisscrossed fiercely struck the huge net formed by the heavenly evil dragon spear. Fire could subdue metal and wood, not to mention the ultimate dual fire. The heavenly evil dragon's demonic power was greatly affected by the sacred evolution fire dragon's suppression of the emerald ground lizard dragon king. On the other hand, Ji Dong's demonic power increased greatly under the enhancement of the dual fire array, the sacred evolution fire dragon, and the 2 sub-god-grade weapons. The magicians from both sides who were watching the battle only saw 2 shocking rainbows suddenly appear in the sky. The huge green net that had the absolute upper hand before was forcibly cut open, and in the next moment, the raging dual fire magic power completely tore it apart. This was the first time Ji Dong rode a mount to fight against an enemy. It was also the first time he used a long weapon to fight against an enemy. Even he himself was stunned by everything in front of him. That was the all-out attack of an 8-crown demon master. It was forcibly cut open by his 2 simple swords. The scorching and flaming dual swords were 9 meters long. At that moment, they each spat out a 3-meter-long sword light. Just by looking at the wide bodies of the swords, one could feel their terrifying destructive power. No one would be willing to use their own bodies to come into contact with them. Tianxia was also stunned. He had never thought that his attack would be so easily resolved by Ji Dong. Looking at the huge dual swords in Ji Dong's hands, then looking at the sacred evolution fire dragon that was staring coldly at him, a chill from the bottom of his heart spread throughout his body. Only then did he realize how wrong he was to underestimate this young man in front of him. He also understood that in the face of absolute power, all techniques were meaningless. There was a 23-level difference in mana, but the one completely suppressed was the level 84 Tianxia. Although he still had the dragon spear in his hand, his body was trembling slightly. His demon domain had been completely suppressed. When the dual swords crossed, there was only black and white left in the sky. Ji Dong could not release his demon domain, but the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon could. With the mana of the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon and Ji-Dong's, the level difference between them no longer existed. Under the complete suppression of attributes, Tian Xie could no longer use an attack like before. Cannon Dragon Ah Bing nudged Fury, who had jumped off the Purple Thunder Heaven Dragon's back, and said, "You or Ji-Dong, who is stronger?" Fury smiled bitterly and said, "I don't know." "You don't know?" Ah Bing looked at Fury in shock. "Don't you have a divine weapon?" Fury smiled bitterly and said, "Senior brother, do you know what my junior brother is most powerful about? Creating miracles." Chapter 244. If we go all out, I might be stronger than him with the help of the Hell Thunder Divine Axe. However, the final result is unpredictable. After not seeing him for 4 years, the gap between us has gradually become negligible. Fury's evaluation of Ji-Dong came from the bottom of his heart. He did not flatter him at all. When he saw Ji-Dong's mount, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon, and the blazing and flaming dual swords, he knew that he would no longer be alone in the upcoming battle of the Saint Demon. He would no longer be the sole commander. "Take a strike from me." Ji-Dong snapped out of his shock. In the next moment, the pride in his heart overflowed. Ever since he became a Devil Master, this was the first time he felt the beauty of being in control of heaven and earth. Even though the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon had yet to unleash its full power, and even though he was not familiar with the 2 huge swords in his hands, he could finally be considered as one of the strongest in the mainland. As long as his opponent was not a 9-crowned supreme martial artist, Ji-Dong was confident that he could fight him. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon swung its body in the air. In the next moment, Ji-Dong was already above Tian Xie's head. The scorching sword in his right hand carried an intense yang fire as it slashed down. Everywhere it passed, not only did the air distort, but a huge fan-shaped golden light mark also appeared. Faced with Ji-Dong's attack, Tian Xie felt a sense of helplessness. However, he still released his powerful combat ability at this critical juncture. The dragon spear in his hand did not meet Ji-Dong's attack directly. Instead, the Emerald Lizard Dragon King beneath him suddenly shifted its body and tried to bring Tian Xie away from the front. At the same time, Tian Xie took the opportunity to pull his dragon spear out from the side towards the Scorching Sword. The Scorching Sword and Flaming Dual Swords were too heavy. Even though Ji-Dong could temporarily use them with the demonic power from the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon, the 9-meter-long swords weighed more than 5,000 kilograms after being infused with demonic power. It was extremely difficult to change the direction of his slash. Boom! The 7-meter-long dragon spear hit the side of the Scorching Sword. With a loud bang, Ji-Dong's body tilted slightly along with his sword. Meanwhile, Tian Xie and the Emerald Lizard Dragon King beneath him trembled violently. The dragon spear in Tian Xie's hand was already covered in a layer of intense golden flames. Tian Xie used all of his first wood demonic power to barely withstand the attack of the ultimate yang fire. The blood in his body was already boiling. This was the first time that Ji-Dong rode a mount into battle. Whether it was combat experience or combat skills, Tian Xie was above him. However, with that tyrannical heavy sword, it actually gave people a feeling that it was a force that could subdue everything. It forced Tian Xie to be unable to fully display his various skills. Coupled with the strong suppression of the attributes, it made Tian Xie feel extremely uncomfortable. The Scorching Sword was slapped askew, but Ji-Dong was not idle. The flame sword in his left hand had already descended from the sky with a large patch of dark light. A cold halo appeared in the air, and the demonic power wave was the complete opposite of the Scorching Sword's explosive power. It was also a flame, but it was filled with a deep chill. The only similarity was that the gigantic heavy sword was equally violent. Tian Xie's combat experience was extremely rich. At this time, under the strong suppression of the attributes, he gritted his teeth and forced himself to display his strength. He did not use the dragon spear in his hand to receive Ji Dong's second strike. As a top magic master of the Magic Skills Guild, he naturally knew the consequences of the yin-yang dual attribute magic. Although the dragon spear in his hand was extraordinary and helped him withstand the attack of the ultimate yang fire, the ultimate yang fire on the dragon spear had not been completely dispersed. Once it came into contact with the ultimate yin fire, Tianxia knew that he would not be able to withstand it no matter what. This was also the reason why he felt a chill in his heart. When Ji Dong increased his own demonic power to the extent that it could contend against him, he knew that he was in big trouble. The jade-ground lizard dragon king's huge body spun 180 degrees in the air. Its hammer-like tail swept out, and with a half-turn, not only did it dodge Ji Dong's attack head-on, the hammer-like tail was just like the dragon spear in Tianxia's hand, smashing towards the flame sword from the side. As a Class 9 magical beast, the jade-ground lizard dragon king's strength was also extremely great. If it were to hit the flame sword from the side, even if the flame sword was shockingly heavy, Ji Dong would have a hard time stabilizing his body. However, Tianxia was not the only one with a mount. Two dragon roars sounded out at the same time. Maotai and Wuliangye's auras surged. Their huge bodies spun in the air, and their speed was at least 3 times that of the jade-ground lizard dragon king. Furthermore, they did not spin 180 degrees, but 360 degrees. They brought Ji Dong with them as they spun on the same spot. The flame sword's violent spin coincidentally evaded the jade-ground lizard dragon king's tail, but the sacred evolution fire dragon king's tail whipped towards it. Smack! An explosive sound rang out in the air. The sacred evolution fire dragon king's tail had struck the jade-ground lizard dragon king's tail. A dazzling magical light erupted from the point where the two dragons' tails came into contact. Green light scattered in all directions, and the emerald lizard drake king let out a blood-curdling screech. Amidst a loud boom, its tail, which looked much thicker than the sacred evolution fire dragon, exploded. Scales, blood, and flesh scattered in the air. The reason why the sacred evolution fire dragon king was able to intimidate the other dragons was not just because of its aura. More importantly, it was because of its strength. It possessed unparalleled strength. In order to hatch it and make it compatible with Ji Dong's element, the flaming bar had spent close to 5 years. When the sacred evolution fire dragon king had hatched, it had eaten 81 flying serpent sloughs in the core world as food. Its body's toughness was definitely not below that of the twin swords in Ji Dong's hands. The origin of chaos and the burning of its soul fire gave it a powerful aura that surpassed all other magical beasts. The sacred evolution fire dragon king's tail contained the ultimate power of yin and yang fire. When the sacred evolution fire dragon king exploded, the ultimate power and the toughness of the sacred evolution fire dragon king's body made it impossible for the jade-ground lizard dragon king to resist. Under the intense pain, the jade-ground lizard dragon king's body inevitably became sluggish in the air. At this moment, Ji Dong's twin swords, Blaze and Flame, were already spinning around the sacred evolution fire dragon king. They carried an even sharper aura as they slashed towards Tianxia and the jade-ground lizard dragon king, one from the front and one from the back. Violence, absolute violence. Looking at the twin swords in his hands, every demon master watching the battle felt their blood boil. This was the most direct attack. The super-heavy swords, which were 9 meters long and 3 meters wide, gave off an extremely domineering feeling. The man was strong, the dragon was strong. This simple attack forced Tianxia, who clearly had a lot of battle techniques, to have no other choice. When the jade-ground lizard dragon king cried out in pain, Tianxia had already gathered all his mana. Being in midair, his overall mobility depended on his mount. His mount was injured, and his speed was already at an absolute disadvantage. What else could he do? He could only take it head-on. Tianxia was also fighting with all his might. An intense green light exploded from his body. With a loud bang, his full body armor exploded. As the intense light burst forth, it turned into countless spinning clear metal light blades in midair, scattering in all directions. The spear in his hand also turned into a clear ball of light as it danced rapidly, meeting Ji Dong's attack. Boom, boom, two booms sounded almost at the same time. Tian Xie's dragon spear forcefully blocked Ji Dong's first strike. However, when the second strike slashed down, the ultimate dual fire mana instantly burst forth. In that unparalleled boom, the heavy sword in Tian Xie's hand exploded into pieces. Tian Xie groaned at the same time. His body was about to be engulfed by the ultimate dual fire. Even if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. At this moment, a ball of intense yellow light was released from Tian Xie's trembling right hand. It turned into a ball of intense yellow light, blocking the aftermath of the ultimate dual fire explosion from his and the jade-ground lizard dragon king's bodies. Magic skill scroll. Ji Zhangxin frowned. Tian Xie did not use his own power to block Ji Dong's attack. The two heavy waves in Ji Dong's hands were too overbearing. With the mana from Ji Dong and the sacred evolution fire dragon, even an 8-crown demon master would not be able to block the ultimate dual fire combination skill head-on. Tian Xie was forced to face it head-on. The dragon's spear was destroyed. He blocked the aftermath of the ultimate dual fire combination skill not with his own power, but with the defense of the earth element. Without a doubt, this came from the power of the scroll. Tian Xie had already used an earth element scroll. At the same time, he used the collision of mana to retreat in the air with the jade-ground lizard dragon king. Ji Dong slashed down with both swords. He felt that the mana in his body had been drained by almost 20% when the ultimate dual fire combination skill exploded. It was clear how much mana was consumed behind the power of the dual fire combination skill. At this moment, the sky was filled with clear light. The scattered clear light from Tian Xie's exploded armor had already turned into rapidly spinning light blades that shot towards Ji Dong. Tian Xie was an 8-crown demon master after all. When he saw that he could not avoid a head-on clash with Ji Dong, he did the best he could. The explosion of the armor was completely intentional. This was also the special ability of the armor. When it exploded, it would turn into 36 destructive green blades to attack the opponent. It was not a direct attack. Instead, it would scatter and attack from all directions. This kind of attack was undoubtedly more terrifying. At the cost of sacrificing all the mana contained in the armor, the attack was extremely powerful. Tian Xie relied on the earth element defense scroll to retreat. His attack had also silently arrived behind Ji Dong at the same time he was knocked back. The violent boom from before had completely covered the sound of the 36 destructive green blades tearing through the air. It was impossible for Ji Dong not to notice the 36 destructive green blade. Demon masters were born with a premonition for danger. They would react immediately when faced with danger. Using this time, Tian Xie had already put some distance between him and Ji Dong, forcing the ultimate dual fire to wreak havoc in his body. It could be said that while he was forcefully taking on Ji Dong's attack, he still did not make any mistakes in his tactic. In terms of control, he was not as good as Wofer, but in terms of brains, there were not many people in the Magic Skills Guild who could compare to him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break through the 8-crown demon masters at the age of 60 and become a top expert. He was also the most favored demon master in the Magic Skills Guild to break through to the 9-crown demon masters in the future. In the face of the 36 destructive green blades, Ji Dong had to deal with it. Even though his Phoenix Dance Dragon Snake transformation had a strong defense, it was an all-out attack launched at the cost of sacrificing a set of armor. In midair, he swung his heavy swords in a circle in the air at the same time, each drawing a huge arc. The scorching and flaming swords were used as shields. The huge curtain of light not only blocked him, but also protected the sacred evolution fire dragon. Although he could not use these two heavy swords flexibly, he still knew how to use the advantages of the heavy swords. At the same time, everyone saw a strange scene. A layer of golden red light emerged from Ji Dong's body and covered his whole body. His face was also covered by a hideous mask. It was the Demon Lord Yin-Yang armor. If it was summoned through a storage magic tool, the armor that was summoned would need time to be worn. However, Ji Dong's Demon Lord Yin-Yang armor simply appeared directly from under his skin. When it appeared, it was already on his body. This was the use of the fusion magic. Two huge flames with a radius of 9 meters blossomed in the air. With his arms as the center, Ji Dong released the two great offensive and defensive skills from the two sovereign king marks at the same time. His right hand was Flaming Sun Spin, and his left hand was Devil Flame Spin. Although the spin was from his body to his arms, the dual swords were still too overbearing. The terrifying rotation was like a huge whirlpool of death. Wherever it passed, the green light kept shattering in the air, and was refined by the ultimate dual flames. Ji Dong did not dare to let his two skills collide. The scorching and flaming swords seemed to exist for the sake of the combination skill. Once they came into contact, they would immediately produce the effect of the combination skill without his control. However, it was also because of this that the combination skill's effect would greatly consume his own mana. If it was not necessary, Ji Dong had to avoid the appearance of the combination skill. The 36 destructive green blades could not even get close to him before they were all destroyed. Tian Xie also used this short period of time to retreat 300 meters away from Ji Dong and the sacred evolution fire dragon. The suppression on his attributes was also weakened, and he had time to catch his breath. Chapter 245. The monarch's double dance was unleashed. The scorching sun spin and demonic flame spin easily broke through the opponent's counterattack. Ji Dong held the blaze and flame swords by his side, and his aura instantly rose to its peak. On the other hand, First Wood Celestial Lord Tian Xie had lost his armor. Not only did his defense decrease, but he also lost the support of his own mana. Without a doubt, in this state, it would be even more difficult for him to resist Ji Dong's next round of attacks. Admit defeat. You have no chance at all, Ji Dong said faintly. He did not intend to kill his opponent. The power of the blaze and flame swords had brought him too many surprises. Ji Dong believed that if he could fully display the power of these two swords one day, or if he could fill all the sockets of these two swords, then he would have the strength to challenge a sovereign. Even if his own mana had not reached the 9 crowns level, it would not be a problem. Tian Xie was slightly panting, and his forehead was already covered in sweat. Forcing the ultimate dual fire mana out of his body was definitely not a comfortable thing. Sometimes it was blazing and exploding, and sometimes it was cold and lingering. The two completely opposite types of flames were torturing him, causing the mana in his body to drop rapidly. Furthermore, as Ji Dong dispelled his attack, the attribute suppression appeared once again. Just like what Ji Dong had said, with his own strength, he had no chance at all. Originally, Tian Xie should not have been so weak. It was because the sacred evolution fire dragon suppression on the emerald ground lizard dragon king was too strong. Not only did it greatly weaken the support mana he received from the Emerald Ground Lizard Dragon King, he also had to use his own mana to help the Emerald Ground Lizard Dragon King stabilize its mind. Under such circumstances, it would be good if he could use 70% of his strength. In this way, how could he deal with Ji Dong's strange super heavy dual swords? A faint light flickered. Ji Dong's face revealed a trace of cold light. The two swords pointed at his opponent, and the powerful pressure kept increasing. All the demon masters watching the battle below could feel that his next attack would definitely be thunderous. He would not give Tian Xie any chance. Who told you that I'd definitely lose? You're very strong. You're only level 61, but you can force me to the point where I can't even fight back. Whether it's your mount, equipment, or weapon, you're all above me. However, don't think that you've won. As he spoke, Tian Xie flipped his wrist, and a scroll appeared in his hand. The scroll unfurled in the wind, and dense mana fluctuations burst forth in the sky. The air, which was initially scorching hot due to the ultimate dual flames, suddenly cooled down a little. Black light instantly spread out in the air, and thick ice spears quickly took shape. In the next moment, a total of 99 gigantic ice spears, each 9 meters long, were already shooting toward Jidong. Another magic skill scroll? Seeing Tian Xie release the scroll, not only did Jidong not panic, but a faint smile appeared on his face instead. Previously, Lu Kar, the vice-guild leader of Golden Eagle Guild, had relied on a scroll to escape from his hands. Previously, Tian Xie had also used a magic skill scroll to block the aftermath of the Blaze and Flame Dual Swords attack. Now, he took out a scroll to attack again. Was he the only one with a scroll? Jidong did something that everyone could not understand. He did not use the 2 swords in his hands to block the attack of the 99 ice spears. Instead, he put the Blaze and Flame Dual Swords back into the vermilion bird bracelet. With a flip of his wrists, an item appeared in each of his hands. It was a crystal bottle the size of a fist. The crystal bottle in his left hand contained a black liquid, while the crystal bottle in his right hand contained a sparkling golden liquid. With a flip of his wrists, the 2 crystal bottles broke through the air and collided violently in the air. There was a violent explosion in the air, and a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 5 meters instantly exploded. The terrifying explosive force caused the fireball to turn black and gold in an instant. The blazing flames were like a huge shield, blocking in front of Jidong and the sacred evolution fire dragon. A thick ice spear exploded in the blazing flames. When the huge ball of flames finally exploded, the 99 ice spears had been swept away. What was that? Tian Xie saw with his own eyes what Jidong had thrown out with both hands. That was clearly not an attack launched by his own magic power. It was not Tian Xie's idea to use the scrolls to launch the attack, but it came from the leader of the Magic Skills Guild, Shui Mingyue. Before the battle started, Shui Mingyue gave Tian Xie a ring. It was a storage ring that contained the scrolls that the Magic Skills Guild had accumulated over the years. In order to win this battle, Shui Mingyue was willing to pay any price. That was why Tian Xie had asked Tian Xie to bring the scrolls with him. This was Tian Xie's greatest and final trump card. He had a large number of scrolls. This was also why Tian Xie was so confident when he made the bet with Jidong. At this stage of the battle, it was no longer a battle of pure strength. Tian Xie was equivalent to throwing gold coins at Hyoheim. He wanted to use this method to defeat Jidong. Using scrolls to win the battle was undoubtedly the easiest way. He only needed to continuously throw out scrolls and unleash the various skills stored in the scrolls. There was no need to pause at all. And no matter how strong Jidong was, every time he resisted a scroll, he would need to expend a certain amount of magic power. There was a limit to the magic power of any magician, even a sovereign expert was no exception. Therefore, Tian Xie did not think that he would lose. This was the reason why. After all, the ring that Shui Mingyue gave him had more than 100 scrolls. In this era, the method of making scrolls had already been lost. The value of any magic skill scroll could be said to be an astronomical figure. Back then, Kar had used a scroll to save his life, but he still had the support of the Golden Eagle Merchant Association. At this moment, Tian Xie, who had 100 scrolls, was like the richest magician in the magician world. He planned to use the most expensive method to end this battle. Even if he was facing a sovereign expert, he believed that before he used up all the scrolls, the opponent would not be able to hurt him. Unfortunately, Tian Xie had never thought that he would meet a freak, a weirdo in the magician world. His 9th water-killing skill scroll, the 99 Chilling Ice Spear, was actually blocked by Jidong's dual fire combination skill. Could it be that he also used a scroll? Although Tian Xie was shocked, his hands did not stop moving. In order to make it easier to use, he directly took out 10 scrolls from his ring and placed them in front of him. One by one, he threw them in the direction of Jidong. In the air there was water, wood, earth, gold, and even fire. All kinds of yin and yang scrolls kept bursting with dazzling lights in the air. Even the most beautiful fireworks couldn't compare to the magical elements blooming in this space-time. The blooming flames made everyone feel dazzled. Looking at Jidong's side, no matter how fast Tian Xie threw the scrolls, he did not move at all. He also flicked his wrists, and golden and black lights kept bursting in the air. His speed was not slower than Tian Xie's. He would only pause for a moment when Tian Xie used a fire-type attack scroll. He didn't need to deal with it at all. The complete suppression of the dual fire element could directly make the fire elements produced by the fire-type attack fuse into his body, and instead strengthen Jidong's magical power. Tian Xie quickly realized this. In the following attacks, he didn't dare to use the fire-type scroll anymore. He only kept throwing out the other 4 elemental scrolls. In the air, the 5 elemental elements scattered in all directions. It was equivalent to the 4 elemental scrolls fighting the dual fire ultimate. The more Tian Xie attacked, the paler his face became. Every time he used a scroll, there would be one less, but it did not have any effect at all. On the other hand, he did not know what the opponent was throwing out, but it was as if it was inexhaustible, and could always completely block his scroll attack. Shui Mingyue's expression was extremely ugly. Those were all money. Every scroll was worth tens of thousands of gold coins, or even hundreds of thousands, or even millions. If those hundreds of scrolls were all exchanged for gold coins, it would be enough to make anyone rich enough to rival a country. But right now they could only turn into balls of light that exploded in the air, and didn't achieve the desired effect. All along, if any magician could obtain a magic skill scroll, they would treasure it. Only when their lives were in danger would they take it out to save their lives. It was the first time in 1,000 years that Tian Xie squandered it like this. The strangest thing was that his scrolls seemed to be malfunctioning, and were always blocked by his opponent. In contrast to Tian Xie, Jidong's expression was extremely happy, and his smile became wider and wider. His opponent threw out magic skill scrolls, but what did he throw out? Naturally, it was the magic skill wine that he had just created. He had used all the ingredients he had bought previously to make magic skill wine. Other than the accidents of failure, he had made hundreds of finished products. Even though there wasn't a single sure kill technique among the finished products, an ultimate dual fire attribute technique, even if it was a sure kill technique, was extremely powerful. Furthermore, when Jidong used it now, he threw out 2 magic skill wines with the same attack methods and opposite attributes at the same time, creating a yin and yang dual attribute combination technique. It was stronger than a normal sure kill technique. No matter what the attributes of the scrolls that his opponent used, and none of them were existences with ultimate demonic power, with the magic skill wine, he didn't find it difficult to block them at all. This was the first time that Jidong had tested his magic skill wine in an actual battle. Reality had already proven that his research was absolutely successful. The power of the magic skill wine perfectly displayed the effects of the scrolls. Compared to the expensive scrolls that his opponent had thrown out, the amount that Jidong had spent on all the ingredients was less than 10,000 gold coins. To him, this was nothing at all. He could casually sell a crystal child, and he could get back several times the amount of ingredient. Yin Zhaorong's eyes were also a little dull. Looking at the abnormal battle in the air, he couldn't help but ask Yin Zhaoyang, "Big brother, did you see how Jidong released those skills?" Yin Zhaoyang said, "That wasn't his own demonic power. It seemed to be an attack similar to the scrolls. However, he didn't use any scrolls, and it's even more impossible for him to have so many scrolls. The Magic Skills Guild can be said to have sunk their boats this time. I don't know how Jidong dealt with it, but I can be sure that this is definitely the most expensive battle in the history of the magic world. Let's not talk about their bet. Just the number of scrolls released by that magician from the Magic Skills Guild is definitely an astronomical figure. Shangguan Yinkong was already grinning from ear to ear. This was the first time she had seen Ji Dong. She had just reconciled with her husband, and this undoubtedly made her feel unprecedentedly happy. The depression that had plagued her for decades had been resolved in a single day, and she seemed to have become several years younger. However, when the second battle began, her heart unconsciously tightened again. No matter what, Ji Dong was her descendant. Just as Ji Zhangxin had said, the lack of descendants in the equivalent king's bloodline had a lot to do with her departure. In this generation, Ji Dong only had 2 great-great-grandchildren. Ji Zhangxin had already told her through telepathy that apart from Ji Dong had already been adopted into the royal family. It could be said that Ji Dong was the only one who could possibly inherit the equivalent king's throne. 4 decades, even though Shangguan Yinkong hated Ji Zhangxin, she had always regarded herself as the daughter-in-law of the equivalent king's family, not to mention that he was her great-great-grandson. So, when she saw that Ji Dong was facing an 8-crown magician, her heart unconsciously tightened. It was only when the sacred evolution fire dragon appeared that she understood why the siblings, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, were so calm. Looking at the extreme dual fire magic released by Ji Dong, although she was curious why it wasn't earth magic, she was also shocked by the extremely special magic combination. How could she know that in fact, even the siblings did not know what level Ji Dong's current cultivation had reached? Their confidence in Ji Dong came from his ultimate skill, the sun-moon yin-yang world. Even in this kind of situation, they were not worried at all. If it really didn't work, Ji Dong could still release the magic he had stored and activate that ultimate skill to attack. Not to mention a wood element magician like Tian Xie, that double ultimate skill was something that even a supreme expert like them would have to go all out to defend against. The sacred evolution fire dragon, the raging and flaming dual swords, and now that magical magic wine. As the president of the Magician Guild, Shangguan Yinkong naturally understood what this meant. This was the rise of a genius of a generation, a true expert of the future magician world, and this person was actually her great-great-grandson. At this moment, she had already unknowingly puffed out her chest, unafraid to face the Magician Guild. The only thing left in her heart was pride. She really wanted to shout loudly, "That's my descendant!" Ji Dong's magic wine was almost finished. On the other side, the speed at which Tian Xie threw out the scrolls was also rapidly decreasing. Looking at Ji Dong, who was like a tiger eyeing its prey, Tian Xie fiercely clenched his teeth and finally took out the most expensive scroll in his ring. Chapter 246. Demonic Skill Wine vs. Demonic Skill Scroll. Such a unique battle finally came to an end. In the palm of Tian Xie's hand, there was already a golden scroll, and the previous attack was slowly dissipating in the air. Seeing the golden scroll in his hand, Ji Dong's expression changed slightly. He had carefully read the ancient book that Flying Serpent had given him, and it was the last few pages of the scroll's production records. He clearly saw the production method of this golden scroll on the last page. It could be said that its value was terrifying, and Ji Dong could not accept it at all. It actually needed the powder of a Class 10 magical beast's core crystal as the main raw material, and there was only one purpose for producing this kind of paper: to be the carrier of a super killing skill. That's right, a super killing skill. Ji Dong had never thought that Tian Xie would have such a powerful scroll. A super killing skill was the most unpredictable skill. Ji Dong himself also had the ability to use a super killing skill, but he was very clear that his world of sun, moon, yin and yang was only the most basic super killing skill. Super killing skills were divided into 4 levels: primary, intermediate, advanced, and peak. It was also a super killing skill, But if a primary super killing skill met an intermediate super killing skill, then the result was very simple. The primary super killing skill would be completely destroyed without any suspense, and there was no need to consider the problem of mutual promotion or restraint of attributes. Quick, stop him. Flaming Bar's somewhat anxious voice sounded in the depths of Ji Dong's soul. If the scroll in Tian Xie's hand could be used as an intermediate killing skill, not only Ji Dong, but within a radius of 10,000 meters, all living beings would be plunged into misery and suffering. Ji Dong did not know if the 6 supremes below could withstand it, but he could be sure that the demon masters of both sides, and the Diamond Legion not far away would be greatly affected, and he himself would bear the brunt, becoming the first sacrifice. This bastard! He actually did not hesitate to let the living be plunged into misery and suffering? The killing intent in Ji Dong's heart had already bloomed crazily and unstoppably. Under such circumstances, how could he watch Shou unleash this ultimate skill scroll? Without any hesitation, the sacred evolution fire dragon, which was connected to Ji Dong's mind, leaped out. Its body swayed in the air, and like a blinding black and white light, it charged towards Tian Xie. The super ultimate skill scroll was not so easy to use. It required a large amount of mana as the foundation to ignite, and it naturally took time. When Evil Will took out the scroll, his face was full of viciousness. The scroll in his hand could be said to be the trump card of the Magic Skills Guild. It was a powerful metal-type AoE attack scroll. Just as Ji Dong had predicted, this was an intermediate ultimate skill. Even Ji Dong would not be able to block it. Evil Will had already thought it through. As the user of the scroll, he would be protected by the mana released by the scroll. Using this intermediate ultimate skill, not only would Ji Dong die, even the 6 supremes below would be delayed for a period of time. As long as he snatched the core of life, he would immediately run away and restrain his aura. Then, the supremes might not be able to catch up to him. This golden scroll was very small, and could not be seen from below as it was held in Evil Will's hand. Only the Flaming Bar could see the existence of this scroll through the spiritual connection with Ji Dong. Therefore, the 6 supremes below did not know what was about to happen. Only when the sacred evolution fire dragon pounced out and an incomparably terrifying aura suddenly bloomed from Evil Will, did they feel that something was wrong. "Oh no, Evil Will, stop!" Shui Mingyue shouted almost without hesitation. He had never intended to let Evil Will release the ultimate skill. Although he was ambitious, he was definitely not a madman. That ring was his own precious storage magic tool. Previously, when he gave it to Evil Will, he only had the thought of winning in his heart. He had forgotten to take out the most expensive and most terrifying scroll in the ring. Now that he suddenly felt this aura, he naturally knew what it was. What was an intermediate ultimate skill? Simply put, a 9-crown sovereign powerhouse below rank 99 could only use a medium ultimate killing skill even if they used all their strength. If they wanted to use a high ultimate killing skill or even a peak ultimate killing skill, they would need several 9 crowns powerhouses to work together and use a combination skill. Even then, they would suffer a strong backlash. The reason why Yin Zhaoyang and Ji Zhangxin were so powerful among the 9-crown demon masters was very simple. Each of them could use 3 different forms of mid-grade ultimate killing skills, while supremes like Yin Zhaorong, Shangguan Yinkong, Shui Mingyue, and Ling Fengyun could only use 1 mid-grade ultimate killing skill. The difference between 1 and 3 shouldn't be underestimated. 3 mid-grade ultimate killing skills with different forms. When an area of effect super killing skill met a single target super killing skill, the result could be imagined. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would provoke supremes like Ji Zhangxin and Yin Zhaoyang. Only Ji Zhangxin knew that the intermediate ultimate skill that Yin Zhaoyang could use was not 3, but 4. Moreover, Yin Zhaoyang's demonic power had reached level 96. He was the strongest among all the supremes. Among the 6 supremes in front of him, He was also the only one who could use 2 intermediate ultimate skills consecutively. Therefore, Ji Zhangxin had some scruples about him. In midair, Tian Xie unexpectedly released a terrifying aura that belonged to an intermediate ultimate skill. How could the 6 Supremes not be shocked? Almost at the same time, they all made different reactions. Ji Zhangxin leaped up and landed behind Shangguan Yinkong. He put his hands around his wife's waist and shouted in a deep voice, "Yin-yang rotation, absolute defense." Almost at the same time, the extreme demonic power that a 9-crown expert could use was released from the earth element couple. Extreme Yang Earth and Extreme Yin Earth. The terrifying demonic power rose up and formed a huge light shield that spread rapidly. The power of the defense unleashed by the combination of the Yin and Yang attributes of 2 great masters could be imagined. The dazzling golden light formed a huge barrier, not only blocking the magicians of the Magician Guild, but also protecting the Diamond Legion. However, Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong's expressions were very ugly. It could be said that no one on the battlefield could break through the defense that the husband and wife had set up. However, if there was enough time, even a 9 crowns great master would need a lot of time to prepare if he wanted to release a defense that could block a super killing skill. The reason why the magic scroll was so terrifying was because any skill that was activated through the magic skill scroll could be released instantly. Therefore, the absolute defense that they had set up might not be able to block the super killing skill released by the magic scroll. On the side of the Magician Guild, especially the Diamond Legion, not far away, they would still suffer a lot of losses. The magicians of the Magician Guild were not fools. Each and every one of them quickly released their own skills to defend themselves. Ji Yunxing shouted loudly and gave the order to the Diamond Legion to join forces to defend. However, compared to the speed of the magic skill scroll, everything was a beat slower. Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong had almost instantly soared up when they felt that something was wrong. Their target was Tian Xie, who was in the air. Once the intermediate ultimate skill was released, what they had to do was to protect Ji Dong first. At this moment, they could no longer care about winning or losing this battle. On the other side, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun had also released their joint defense. These 2 Supremes were already disheartened. Not to mention the preciousness of the ultimate skill scroll, once this skill caused the Magic Guild and the Diamond Legion to suffer losses, the other side would definitely not let them go. The anger of the 4 Supremes was enough to completely destroy them and the Magic Skill Guild. All of this happened after the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon rushed towards Tian Xie with Ji Dong. When Tian Xie saw Ji Dong rushing towards him, his expression became extremely ferocious. How could he not leave a backup plan for himself? His right hand desperately poured magic power into the scroll, and his left hand swung out. The last 3 prepared scrolls flew towards Ji Dong at the same time. 3 powerful skills instantly bloomed in the air. These 3 skills were Water Element, Metal Element, and Earth Element. The scroll of Water Element was the 99 Ice Spear, the Metal Element was the 1,000 arrows piercing the heart, and the Earth Element was the meteor chasing the moon. The 3 ultimate skills were released at the same time. Although they could not complement each other, there was no doubt about their attacking power. Tian Xie's goal was not to defeat Ji Dong with these 3 scrolls. As long as Ji Dong blocked the attack of these 3 scrolls, then his ultimate skill would be released. At that time, no one would be able to reverse the explosion of this skill. Ji Dong, retreat quickly! Yin Zhaoyang shouted almost loudly. This was the shout he made when he jumped up from the ground. Yin Zhaoyang's strength was very strong. Although he could not stop the ultimate skill in time, after the ultimate skill was released, there would be a short burst of magic power for a second. During this time, he was absolutely sure that he could block between Ji Dong and Tian Xie and protect his disciple. However, Ji Dong did not retreat. From the moment the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon started to accelerate, he had already made up his mind. Ji Dong was a person who never wanted to put his fate in the hands of others. He had a strong desire to control himself. In the face of the 3 brazen magic scrolls, he did not block them. The 2 dragon heads of the sacred evolution fire dragon swung up at the same time, and 2 brilliant rays of light shot out from their mouths at the same time. They were injected into Ji Dong's body, urging Ji Dong to collide with the 3 ultimate skills like a golden and black lightning. Using physical strength to take on 3 sure-kill skills head-on? Tianxie revealed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. He could clearly feel that the scroll in his right hand was about to be activated. However, the smile at the corner of his mouth completely froze in the next moment. He could not believe what he was seeing. Among the 3 ultimate skills, the fastest one was the Earth Element's meteor chasing the moon. It was a bombardment of dozens of huge rocks with surging Earth Element energy. Seeing that Ji Dong was about to collide with them, suddenly, Ji Dong's body flashed in the air. He was like a swimming fish, and he drilled through the cracks of the rock. His body and the skills passed by each other, and he directly swept past the meteor chasing the moon. Ji Dong was very clear that he could not use his magic skills to resist the ultimate skills in front of him. Otherwise, the counterforce would definitely cause him to pause, and even a moment of pause would be fatal at this time. Under the huge pressure, Ji Dong's potential was almost completely stimulated. His body had just passed the group of meteor chasing the moonstones, and the other 2 ultimate skills had already followed. 10,000 heart-piercing arrows and 99 cold ice spears. The density of the attacks was extremely high. At this time, Ji Dong had completely retracted the wings on his back. His whole body was like a swimming fish, and he directly drilled into the center of the 2 ultimate skills. His body was constantly swaying slightly, adjusting the angle of his body. The soul fire was fiercely rising in his body, and his spiritual power was raised to an unprecedented level. The 2 ultimate skills formed an all-encompassing attack that was like a map being scanned by the soul fire and branded in his mind. No matter how dense the attacks were, they still had to be divided into a sequence. Ji Dong was swaying violently, his hands stretched forward, and the fiery magic fluctuated at his fingertips. Facing the attacks, he could always dodge the sharpest spots, and slide past from the side. One by one, the ice spears and metal arrows almost all slid past his body, and even made ear-piercing friction sounds when they came into contact with the Demon Lord Yin-Yang armor. Those that came into contact with Ji Dong's body could only cut through his clothes, and were directly bounced off by his tough skin. However, no matter how fast Ji Dong's movements were, he was still facing 2 ultimate skills. When he went deep into the middle, with the density of the attacks, he was finally unable to dodge. The soaring dual flame spell formation lit up behind him, and ear-piercing dragon roars and snake cries erupted from his body almost at the same time. The 6 dragons and 6 snakes brazenly emerged, unleashing their full power without holding anything back. They did not bombard forward, but shot out in all directions at the same time. Each dragon and snake carried an unparalleled amount of mana. As they rose, there was no doubt that the mana in the air was fiercely scattered. This was a countermeasure that Ji Dong had already thought of. Even if he couldn't stop his opponent from using her ultimate skill, he could still rely on the 6 dragons and 6 snakes to release the sun and moon yin-yang world to resist as much as possible. Under the effect of the 6 dragons and 6 snakes, the magic power contained in the 2 ultimate skills melted. Without the support of magic power, they could not cause any damage, and Ji Dong directly crashed into the ice spears and metal arrows that had lost their momentum and rushed out. The ultimate skill scroll in Tianxie's hand was just a bit away from successfully releasing it. At this moment, he had already poured all his magic power into the scroll. He was even prepared to grab the core of life from Ji Dong, who had been swallowed by the ultimate skill. Chapter 247. Tianxie was overjoyed. He was about to succeed. It sounded like a long time, but the entire process happened in the blink of an eye. He was staking it all on one throw. After throwing out the 3 scrolls, he could no longer attack or defend himself. Tianxia was overjoyed. Success! Just as Tianxia was about to inject the last bit of mana into the scrolls and complete the ultimate move, a firm palm suddenly grabbed his wrist that was holding the scrolls. With a crisp sound, Tianxia's wrist was forcibly shattered amidst the glaring golden flames. The meridians in his wrist and the last bit of mana that he had sent out were completely severed by this sudden hand. Ji Dong had finally arrived at the critical moment. Anger and hatred had already caused the tyrant's hair to stand on end. He slid his right hand down and the scrolls landed in Ji Dong's hands. When he felt the terrifying mana contained within the scrolls, Ji Dong couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. He immediately stored the scrolls in his vermilion bird bracelet. At the same time, he charged forward and punched Tianxia's chest. The blazing golden flames also exploded. At the same time, Ji Dong, who had lost his momentum, stomped heavily on the Emerald Lizard Dragon King's head. He flapped his wings with all his might and used the force of the punch to forcefully bring Tianxia off the dragon's back. The sacred evolution fire dragon had arrived right after Ji Dong. The Emerald Lizard Dragon King, which had already lost its will to fight and was severely injured, was about to face the sacred evolution fire dragon's rage. Gold and black intertwined in the air. There were 6 flashes and 5 explosions. The terrifying dual-colored light pillars became more and more intense. Each pillar was larger than the last. Close combat was Ji Dong's forte. Every palm and punch of his didn't contain any mana. The intense dual-colored light pillars were completely emitted from Tianxia's body. All 6 curses landed on Tianxia's body. Not to mention that he didn't have any armor. Even if he was wearing armor, he wouldn't be able to defend against the 6 curses that were unleashed in the form of the god-slaying strike. The first wood mana source was directly smashed. When the last pillar of light exploded in the air, Tianxia didn't even have time to scream before he turned into ashes in midair. Facing this ruthless enemy who didn't hesitate to release a scroll ultimate move and almost killed him, Ji Dong wouldn't show any mercy. He extended his palm, and an octagonal crystal crown and the heaven jade from the bet were fished out by Ji Dong at the same time. When he turned to look at the sacred evolution fire dragon's battle, he saw that the Emerald Lizard Dragon King had been torn to pieces by the 9 dragon claws. The sacred evolution fire dragon's terrifying grade 8 dual fire didn't give its opponent any chance at all. The Emerald Lizard Dragon King didn't even leave a complete piece of flesh behind. What made Ji Dong dumbfounded was that when the crystal core from the Emerald Lizard Dragon King's head fell into Maotai's hands, Maotai raised his white dragon claws and put the crystal core into his mouth. With a crunch, he bit it in half and threw the other half into Wuliangye's mouth. Wasn't this like taking off his pants to fart? Their heads were different, but their bodies were the same. Wasn't it the same no matter who ate it? On the other hand, Wuliangye was very satisfied and rubbed its head on Maotai's body. A priceless grade 9 crystal core was divided by them. Of course, Ji Dong wouldn't feel distressed about this. The 6 Supremes, who were in full offensive and defensive stance, were a little dazed. When Ji Dong blasted Tianxia into the air, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong had already arrived. However, at that time, they didn't need to interfere anymore. Seeing Ji Dong use his unique 6-layered curse to kill the 8-crown expert in seconds, even they felt a sense of satisfaction. No one had expected the final result to be like this. The middle-grade ultimate killing technique scroll couldn't be released in the end. Ji Dong was slightly panting. The sacred evolution fire dragon had already come under him and carried his body, soaring proudly in the sky. Strangely, it had clearly used its 9 claws to tear apart the Emerald Lizard Dragon King and eaten its crystal core, but its body wasn't stained with blood at all. It was still black and white. The 6 dragons and 6 snakes that had helped Ji Dong disperse the attack of the scroll also flew back under the guidance of the soul fire and merged back into Ji Dong's yin-yang crown. The danger had been resolved. On the side of the Magician Guild, although the magicians who had 6 crowns and above were not young, they couldn't help but cheer. Fury waved his fist fiercely and said, "Good job." It must be known that Ji Dong had not only won this crucial battle, but he had also prevented the release of the intermediate ultimate killing skill, which would have resulted in the deaths of many people. At least the people of the Diamond Corps had to thank him. Even under the joint defense of Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong, because of the haste, they were still bound to suffer casualties. Seeing that his Grandmaster and Grandmaster's wife were flying into the sky to rescue him, Ji Dong hurriedly let the sacred evolution fire dragon go up to meet them. He said respectfully, "Disciple was fortunate enough to not disappoint you." He was actually not too satisfied with himself. After all, he had released the stored dragon and snake demonic power. Of course, this was also because of the variables brought about by the ultimate killing skill scroll. After this battle, with the help of the raging and flaming dual swords, Ji Dong's strength had reached another level. Even Yin Zhaoyang's face, which had always been as calm as an ancient well, couldn't help but reveal a faint smile at this moment. Hyoheim nodded and said, "You did well. You didn't waste these 4 years. Let's go, follow me down. Don't take back your mount." Before Yin Zhaoyang finished speaking, a huge red figure had already rushed into the sky and directly arrived in front of the sacred evolution fire dragon. It was Yin Zhaoyang's magical beast companion, the Fire Dragon King. The Fire Dragon King's big bright eyes were filled with emotion at this moment, and the strong fire attribute magic on its body fluctuated uncontrollably. It stared at the sacred evolution fire dragon beneath Ji Dong, and breathed heavily through its nostrils. It said in a trembling voice, "Child, child." Mao Tai and Wu Yangye were stunned at the same time. They looked at the fire dragon in front of them, which was much larger than them, with some doubt and confusion. They were obviously a little vigilant, but when they looked at the Fire Dragon King's eyes, their vigilance gradually disappeared, and they were slightly dazed. "Child?" Ji Dong looked at Yin Zhaoyang in surprise. A trace of disappointment appeared on Yin Zhaoyang's face, and he said, "Ji Dong, where did you get this mount from? My old friend said that this is her child." Hearing Yin Zhaoyang's words, Ji Dong finally understood. He thought to himself, "It can't be such a coincidence, right?" However, if Mao Tai and Wu Yangye really did find their mother, he would only be happy for them. "My companions are indeed evolved from a fire dragon. Senior Fire Dragon King, are they really your children?" Although Ji Dong had trained with Yin Zhaoyang for a year, he had rarely seen the Fire Dragon King. He spent most of his time with the Flying Serpent, so he was not too familiar with this peak 10th level magical beast. The Fire Dragon King's voice was still trembling. "Child, child." Mao Tai and Wu Yangye let out low growls, and the doubt in their eyes was gradually replaced by warmth. No matter how much they had mutated, their origin came from the bloodline of the Fire Dragon King after all. The aura of the bloodline could not be mistaken. The strong motherly nature emitted from the Fire Dragon King gradually caused strong emotional fluctuations in their hearts. The Fire Dragon King said, as if it was talking in a dream, 1,000 years ago, I gave birth to a child. In a short interval when I was out hunting, I was ambushed by the traitor of the Ice Dragon clan. That despicable and shameless Ice Dragon Feng Shuang took my child away. 1,000 years, I've been looking for my child for 1,000 years. I can't be wrong, I definitely can't be wrong." Ji Dong nodded and said, "You're not wrong, it's your child. Back then, we took them back from the hands of the Ice Dragon Feng Shuang. But because they were affected by the chill of Feng Shuang for many years, their origin was damaged, so we used various methods to help them get rid of the chill and evolve. Mao Tai, Wu Yangye, this is your mother." Ji Dong and the sacred evolution fire dragon's soul were connected, So the sacred evolution fire dragon would not doubt his words at all. The doubt in its eyes was completely replaced by passion. Ji-dong spread the wings on its back and flew up by itself. The sacred evolution fire dragon only hesitated for a moment before their bodies were tightly hugged by the fire dragon king, who had spread its huge wings and pounced on them. The smile on Yin Zhaoyang's face became even wider and he said, "Old friend, I'm really happy for you. You've finally found your child." Yin Zhaoyang laughed and said, "Let the mother and daughter be intimate first. But to be honest, little Dong Dong's magical beast companion does not look like your old friend at all." Yin Zhaoyang looked at Hyoheim with a burning gaze and said, "You'll have to ask him about that." Ji Dong scratched his head. He could not possibly say that the sacred evolution fire dragon had become like this because of his memories from his past life. He muttered, "I don't know what's going on either." Without the permission of the flaming bar, he would not say anything about the core world. Yin Zhaoyang said, "Let's go down first. It's not too late to talk about it after we settle the matter between the two guilds." The three of them landed on the ground. At this moment, the Magician Guild was completely immersed in the cheers, while the Magic Skill Guild was completely silent. Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun sat on their mounts in a daze. They did not know what to say at all. They did not feel any pity for Tianxia's death. They even felt a little glad. Once that killing technique was used, then the Magician Guild would definitely retaliate with all their strength. When he gave the scroll to Tianxia, the competition was no longer fair. But even so, he still lost. What else could he say? "Good grandson, come, let great-grandmother take a look." Shangguan Yinkong's face revealed a benevolent smile. Hyoheim waved her hand. Ji-dong spread his wings and flew above the head of the Earth Emperor Dragon. He arrived in front of Shangguan Yinkong and said, "Greetings, great-grandmother." Shangguan Yinkong smiled and said, "Good child, from you, I can see the future of the equivalent king. Hey, are you still not letting go?" The last sentence was said to Ji Zhangxin, who was still hugging her. Ji Zhangxin's face turned red. After all, in front of so many juniors, he could only unwillingly and resentfully let go. Shangguan Yinkong said, "Ji-dong, go to the side and rest first. After great-grandmother has settled the matter in front of us, I will talk to you." Ji-dong nodded and glided down, landing beside Flaming Bar and Ah Jin. Flaming Bar stretched out her right hand and pulled Ji-dong's hand. Her pleasant voice came from the cloak. "Ji-dong, Ah Jin and I will return to the core world first. These are all your friends and relatives. You need time to deal with them. You can tell them about us. Don't worry, no matter if you choose to stay by their side in the future or do something else, I will not blame you." Flaming Bar, Ji-dong wanted to say something, but Flaming Bar raised her hand and pressed it on his lips. "You don't need to say anything. Do you think I don't understand your intentions? You don't need to feel troubled either. The soaring serpent has already seen through my identity, so there's no harm in telling them. I hope that you will be happy. Come find me in the core world after you have settled everything." Without waiting for Ji-dong to speak again, the gentle red petal-shaped halo had already quietly bloomed, sweeping up Flaming Bar and Ah Jin's bodies. In an instant they disappeared into thin air. With Flaming Bar and Ah Jin gone, Ji-dong immediately felt a strong sense of loss. He knew that Flaming Bar had only done this because she was afraid that he would be put in a difficult position. She did not want him to abandon his family and friends just to travel the continent with her. Other than feeling lost, his heart was also filled with gratitude. All along, no matter when, Flaming Bar had always been thinking of him, silently sacrificing for him. This also made him even more certain that Flaming Bar was gradually accepting his feelings. On the other side, Shangguan Yinkong had already ridden his Earth Emperor Dragon slowly forward. He said in a low voice, "Shui Mingyue, Ling Fengyun, 2 wins out of 3. The 2 battles have already ended. What do you say?" Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun looked at each other. Now that the dust had settled, his expression had become much calmer. He said, "I've lost. Man proposes, God disposes. There's nothing more to say. From today onwards, the Magic Skills Guild will no longer exist. Everything that belongs to the Magic Skills Guild will be merged into the Magic Skills Guild. Although I am not a good person, I will still keep my promise. When I return, I will immediately hand over the Magic Skills Guild to you. However, Fengyun is a guest that I invited this time. She is not a member of the Magic Skills Guild. After I merge the Magic Skills Guild with the Magic Skills Guild, I will not stay." His voice was very calm, but everyone present could feel that his heart was bleeding. The Magic Skills Guild's hundreds of years of foundation had been destroyed in the hands of his generation. It had been destroyed because of greed. The current Shui Mingyue's feelings could be imagined. Ling Fengyun looked at Shui Mingyue with a gentle gaze. He said, "Mingyue, since things have already been decided, take it easy. With Shangguan Yin Kong's personality, he will definitely treat the members of the Magic Skills Guild well." Yin Zhaoyang, Yin Zhaorong, and Ji Zhangxin had already arrived beside Shangguan Yin Kong. Each of their eyes revealed a different light. Chapter 248. Yin Chaoyang said, "The Magic Skills Guild and the Magician Guild merging is not a bad thing. It is the golden age of our magic world. Shui Mingyu, let me ask you, what was the purpose of the Magic Skills Guild?" Shui Mingyu's eyes turned cold. "Yin Chaoyang, don't try to act innocent after getting the advantage. Although I lost, I don't need you to lecture me." Yin Chaoyang acted as if he didn't hear Shui Mingyu's words. No matter if it is the Magic Skills Guild or the Magician Guild, there is only one purpose, and that is to obtain benefits for all magicians, to let the Yin and Yang magician have a home of their own, to have a platform to communicate with each other, to promote the continuous development of the profession of Yin and Yang magician. Shui Mingyu, you lost today. Among the many reasons, the most important is that you have deviated from the path that the guild should take. Greed, lust, jealousy, these negative emotions have blinded your heart. If I am not wrong, your magic is currently level 91, right? After breaking through the 9 crowns, you can no longer improve. Don't you realize that? Enough, Yin Chaoyang, you don't need to attack us anymore. Lung Fengyun was also angry. He looked at Yin Chaoyang with an unfriendly expression. Yin Zhaoyang said faintly, "If you think that I'm trying to discourage you, I can't do anything about it. However, I can tell you that if you maintain your current state of mind, you will never become a supreme expert in the real sense. I feel ashamed for the title of the highest attribute that you've obtained." You! Intense water elements exploded from Shui Mingyu and Ling Fengyun at the same time. The Magic Skills Guild lost. Their mood was already extremely bad. Hearing Yin Chaoyang's provocation, how could they endure it? Ji Zhangxin frowned. "Brother Chaoyang, killing is just a matter of nodding your head, forget it." Yin Chaoyang waved his hand. "All of you back off. Brother Changxin, you will understand later." Ever since Yin Zhaoyang had appeared, everything he had done had been successful. Even Ji Changxin and Shangguan Yinkong, who were also Supreme Being experts, couldn't help but believe in his words. As for Yin Zhaorong, there was no need to even mention her. To her, Yin Zhaorong was like a brother, like a father. He was older than her by 20 years. No matter how strong she was or how old she was, she would always be like a little girl in front of her big brother. Naturally, she wouldn't go against Yin Zhaorong's wishes. The 3 Supremes slowly backed off, leaving Yin Chaoyang standing there facing the 2 Water Supremes. Furthermore, he didn't have the help from the Fire Dragon King. Fire Dragon King couldn't hold anything else in his heart when he saw his long-lost child. The 2 Supremes of Water, Goddess Empress Shui Mingyue and Ascending Light Majesty Ling Fengyun, were riding on their respective giant ice dragons and giant ice dragons. Facing Ascending Light Majesty Yin Zhaoyang, who didn't have a magical beast companion, no matter how one looked at it, they should have the absolute advantage. However, even under such circumstances, they didn't feel any pressure at all. Yin Chaoyang simply stood there, but he gave them a feeling that he was the only one in the world. A bright golden sun crown quietly appeared above Yin Chaoyang's head. The golden flame brand of the 9 crowns seemed to come to life and continuously rose. On the crown, the 3 half-corona stars displayed his terrifying magic power of level 97. Without the pressure of the ultimate yang fire, what he brought to Shui Mingyue, Ling Fengyun, and the 2 rank 10 dragons was purely spiritual pressure. At this moment, Ji Dong, who was also attracted by the scene in front of him, suddenly heard Yin Chaoyang's voice. Take a good look at the 9 crown demon master's fighting style. It will be enlightening for you. Ji Dong was astonished. Could it be that his grandmaster wanted to challenge 2 supreme beings by himself? Moreover, they were 2 water supremes that countered his attribute. With the yin-yang dual waters combined, the opponent's strength would increase by several times. What Yin Chaoyang said next shocked everyone. He looked at Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun calmly. His voice was still so indifferent, but every word he said was earth-shattering. Both of you, come at me together. Even Ji Zhangxin, whose strength was closest to Yin Zhaoyang's, couldn't help but reveal astonishment in his eyes. He had never thought that Yin Zhaoyang would actually challenge 2 supreme water masters by himself. He didn't understand why Yin Zhaoyang would do this. Magic Skills Guild had already lost, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun had also admitted defeat. Was this battle really necessary? Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun looked at each other. Both of them saw the humiliation in each other's eyes. As 9 crown demon masters, when had they ever suffered such humiliation? Almost at the same time, they roared angrily and each of them flew up from the back of their mounts and pounced towards Yin Chaoyang who was standing there. They were 9 crown demon masters after all. 2 against 1, they didn't add their mounts. This was a matter of dignity. In reality, even if they won 2 against 1, they wouldn't be excited. As soon as the 2 water supremes made their move, Ji Dong, who was far away, saw the problem. He realized that no matter if it was Yin Chaoyang, Shui Mingyue or Ling Fengyun, they didn't emit any strong magic wave of their own attribute. It felt like they were the most basic first crown demon masters. They couldn't release their magic power at all. However, the bright yin-yang crown on their heads clearly showed the terrifying strength of their 9 crown. Why is this? Ji Dong didn't understand. Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingyue had already arrived in front of Yin Chaoyang like 2 flashes of lightning. There was no need for any more communication. Only blood could wash away their humiliation. The defeat of the Magic Skills Guild and the provocation of Yin Zhaoyang in a 1 versus 2 battle had caused these 2 water supreme beings to raise their strength to the limit. Shui Mingyue's body spun violently in the air like a huge spinning top. His speed was so fast that no one could see his figure clearly. Although he didn't release any magic wave, Ji Dong could clearly feel that Shui Mingyue was like a huge whirlpool that could swallow everything. When Ling Fengyun was in the air, her entire body was arched backwards. Her left hand was behind her back and her right hand was raised high above her head. She was like a huge battle axe that chopped down from the sky. Her raised right hand was the blade of the battle axe. One was simple, one was complicated. The attacks of the 2 water supremes could be said to be perfectly coordinated. Both of their attacks arrived at the same time, attacking both sides of Yin Chaoyang's body. Facing the attacks of the 2, Yin Chaoyang only took half a step to the left with his left foot. He made a circle with his right hand and slapped towards Ling Fengyun. His left hand shook and raised his sleeve to meet the whirlpool-like Shui Mingyue. Even though he was fighting 1 against 2, he was still as calm as before. However, Yin Chaoyang's attacks didn't happen at the same time. It seemed that his hands were moving at the same time, but in reality, there was a sequence when he came into contact with Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingyue. Even though the difference was negligible, it still made Ji Zhangxin's eyes narrow. Yin Chaoyang's right hand directly slapped Ling Fengyun's palm blade. At the instant before the two of them came into contact, Ji Dong clearly saw that Lung Fingyun's palm blade had turned into a sparkling and translucent purple. That was clearly the phenomenon of the ultimate water reaching its peak. However, Yin Chaoyang's right hand looked so ordinary and didn't emit any elemental color. The hands of the two supreme being powerhouses quietly touched each other. There didn't seem to be any magical fluctuations, but the moment they touched each other, everyone felt an extremely strange sensation. Because they realized that the air in front of them had become distorted. Everything around them could no longer be seen clearly. And it was in this distorted air that there was a slight explosion. This wasn't just the air that was vibrating. The earth, the sky, and even the sun that was hanging high up in the sky seemed to be trembling from this vibration. The second vibration occurred almost at the same time as the first one. That was the effect of Yin Chaoyang's sleeve and Shui Mingyue's whirlpool colliding. These two strange collisions didn't produce any residual waves of magical collision. However, the vibration in the air seemed to make everyone's soul leave their bodies. The distorted air was dazzling. There were only a few people who could truly see the effects of both parties' attacks and defenses. Ji Dong was one of them. With the help of the soul fire, his vision penetrated through the distorted air and saw the true situation of the battle. He was shocked to see that when Ling Fingyun's palm blade collided with Yin Chaoyang's right hand, she was actually sent flying more than 10 meters away. Her body flipped in the air as if she couldn't control the momentum at all. On the other side, the whirlpool formed by Shui Mingyue was slapped by Yin Chaoyang's left hand. The scene was even more shocking. Shui Mingyue wasn't sent flying, but his spinning body was forcefully stopped by Yin Chaoyang's sleeve. His entire body seemed to have fallen into a temporary state of stiffness. Ji Dong was very clear that the three innate martial artists' fighting style that didn't seem to release any magical power was actually more dangerous. They had obviously stored all of their magical power inside and would only release it at the moment of collision. However, he didn't expect that Yin Chaoyang would be able to gain the upper hand in the situation of 1 against 2. What kind of power was this? His opponents were the same as him, 2 9-crowned martial artists. Ji Dong was shocked. Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingyue were even more shocked. Among the 5 elements, water subdued fire, and the two of them were 2 against 1. In their opinion, Yin Chaoyang wouldn't even be able to defend against their joint attack. However, when her attack collided with Yin Chaoyang, they realized how powerful His Majesty Victory Light was. The first to be hit was Ling Fengyun. Her sharp palm blade condensed all of her magical power into a straight line at the edge of her palm. The extreme Gui Shui magical power was like the coldest cold blade. Even if it was a mountain, she could cut it into 2. However, when her attack collided with Yin Chaoyang, it felt like she had slashed a firm fortress made of diamond. The extremely condensed extreme Gui Shui magical power actually couldn't move an inch forward. In the next moment, she was shocked to find that her extreme Gui Shui magical power was greatly consumed in an instant. A terrifying burst of power flashed and disappeared in an instant. In that instant, the irresistible power sent her flying. The intense extreme yang fire was like a vast wave, forcefully dispersing the extreme Gui Shui magical power in her palm. At this moment, Lung Fingyun's entire right arm was burning hot and sore. She couldn't use any strength at all. Shui Mingyue was even more uncomfortable than Ling Fengyun. His strength was slightly stronger than Ling Fengyun. His rapidly spinning body, with every revolution, the magical power in his body would condense a bit more. Both of his hands were folded in front of his chest. Once released, it would be as powerful as a thunderbolt. Although Supreme Masters could use ultimate skills, in reality, when they met an opponent of the same level, it was impossible for them to use ultimate skills. Even if it was the strength of a 9-crown, if they wanted to use an ultimate skill, they would need to accumulate power for more than a second. 1 second seemed very short, but for a 9-crown demon master, it was enough to kill an opponent dozens of times. Therefore, the battle between Supreme Masters was not as dazzling as the battle between Ji Dong and Tian Xie. Their battle became more simple and direct, but also the most dangerous. If they were not careful, as long as they were hit by an opponent of the same level, it was very likely that they would be destroyed. Yin Zhaoyang's swing looked very simple. It was just a swing in the opposite direction of Shui Mingyue's rotation, forcefully stopping his rotation. But in reality, to be able to do this, not to mention how strong Yin Zhaoyang's magical power was, just his grasp of time and position, control of his own magical power, as well as the judgment of the strength of the magical power distribution in Shui Mingyue's rotation, had reached a very precise level. Shui Mingyue only felt that his extremely condensed ninth water, which could explode at any time to launch a strong attack, was forcefully interrupted by this swing. The condensing of magical power was interrupted. Even if he was a supreme ninth water master, it was so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit blood. And what he could not understand was that after his condensed magical power was whipped, he could not even explode successfully. It was like his tendons were cut, and he lost the connection and control of his muscles. Ling Fengyun was forced back, and Shui Mingyue was fixed there. At this moment, it was equivalent to Shui Mingyue facing Yin Zhaoyang alone. And because the condensing of magical power was interrupted, his body also showed a moment of delay. At this moment, he only felt that his body was dislocated, and everything was no longer under his control. The rhythm of the battle was destroyed by Yin Zhaoyang's swing, and in his heart, there was actually a sense of helplessness. Chapter 249. A deathly chill rose from the bottom of his heart and rushed into his brain. Shui Mingyue's pupils dilated because he clearly saw that Yin Zhaoyang, who was facing both his and Ling Fengyun's attacks, did not show any hesitation after blocking their attacks. It looked like he only attacked with his right hand and waved his left sleeve. At this moment, his body made a half-turn and the right hand that hit Ling Fengyun had already arrived above Shui Mingyue's head. Shui Mingyue was after all a 9-crown expert. At this moment of life and death, he used all his strength, not caring about the damage to his meridians. He used all his strength to push his hands up. His completely transparent palms finally blocked Yin Zhaoyang's palm at the last moment. But this palm caused Shui Mingyue's entire person to change. First was his transparent palms, transparent demonic power. This was the specialty of the ninth water. The demonic power of the ninth water was black, but the ninth water was like real water, it was colorless and transparent. But at this moment, 2 palms against 1, after blocking, Shui Mingyue's hands actually turned from transparent to gold. It represented the yang fire of extreme yang. And this gold almost instantly spread to his arms. His sleeves instantly turned into ash, until his shoulders barely managed to block the attack. Not only that, Shui Mingyue's entire body was like a nail. He was forcefully smashed into the ground by Yin Zhaoyang's palm. Below his chest, everything was sunk into the ground, and his face became strangely red. This is the power of a 9-crown expert? Ji Dong looked at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded. Ever since he recognized Yin Zhaoyang as his grandmaster, he had never seen how his grandmaster fought. Now that he saw it for himself, he finally understood why everyone was so afraid of this grandmaster. Even his ancestor Xian was very respectful to him. This was power, truly terrifying power. They were both 9-crown demon masters, but in just a moment, 2 opponents whose attributes were able to suppress Yin Zhaoyang were actually sent flying by him and smashed into the ground. What kind of power was this? Mingyue! Ling Fengyun shouted. Just as she stabilized her body, she stopped in the air. She kicked backwards and a wall of air appeared, bouncing her body back towards Yin Zhaoyang. While she was in the air, the powerful 9-crown Yin crown above Ling Fengyun's head had already turned into a purple light and merged into her palm. She separated her fingers into a claw shape and clawed towards Yin Zhaoyang's head. changing direction in the air, and accelerating in the opposite direction. This was probably something only an innate expert could do. The air was like a part of their body. Completely merging the yin-yang crown into an attack was undoubtedly the most exhausting method for a demon master. It was also a method that would only be used in desperate situations. Lung Fengyun had to do this because she could clearly feel that if Yin Zhaoyang attacked again, Shui Mingyue would be finished. She had to save Shui Mingyue. Not to mention the friendship between them. If Shui Mingyue was killed by Yin Zhaoyang, then she would not be able to gain any benefits. After facing Yin Zhaoyang, she finally understood how powerful His Majesty was. Now, the only chance for her and Shui Mingyue was to join hands and display the effect of the yin-yang dual water combination skill. Facing Ling Fengyun's all-out attack, Yin Zhaoyang didn't seem to care at all. He was still as calm as before. The sun crown on his head didn't even have any magical fluctuation. He raised his right hand and made a simple downward chopping motion. There wasn't any magical fluctuation on his palm either. Only the fluctuation of the distorted air could be vaguely seen. Ling Fengyun's full-strength claw collided with Yin Zhaoyang's right palm. Ji Dong could even clearly see that the thick purple crystal on Ling Fengyun's fingertips actually melted like snow. In the next moment, her entire body was like a rock. Along with Yin Zhaoyang's right palm, she was forcefully smashed onto the ground. That's right, smashed onto the ground, her body completely sunk into the ground. From the beginning to the end, there were only 4 collisions. Moreover, Yin Zhaoyang was completely on the defensive. He switched between attacking and defending with God Empress Majesty Shui Mingyue and Ascending Light Majesty Lung Fengyun. His feet didn't even leave the ground. After 4 collisions, the air distorted 4 times. When most of the people could see everything clearly, only Yin Zhaoyang was left standing among the 3 Supreme Masters. Yin Zhaoyang did not follow up with his attack to destroy the 2 Supreme Being experts. After smashing Ling Fengyun into the ground with his palm, he stopped and put his hands behind his back. His face was still as calm as before, as if nothing had happened. Silence, absolute silence. Yin Zhaoyang was very calm, but the situation in front of him had already told everyone the result. Shui Mingyue's chest was completely sunk into the ground. Her arms were still raised high, as if she was throwing herself. Her face was flushed red, and she was using all her strength to dissolve the extreme yang fire magic power that had invaded her body. Under the situation where the elemental restraints existed, he actually couldn't break free. Ling Fengyun was even more miserable. She was directly smashed onto the ground, and even made a front claw movement with her right hand. These weren't 2 ordinary people, but 2 Supreme Masters with 9 crowns, Supreme Masters with their own elemental titles. The battle had only lasted for a few blinks of an eye, and they had already been reduced to such a state. On the other hand, Yin Zhaoyang, who was the instigator of all this, was still standing there unscathed, as if nothing had happened. Even Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong, who were also Supreme Being experts, were dumbfounded by what they saw, let alone the ordinary Devil Masters. What would have happened if they were in Yin Zhaoyang's position? Although Ji Zhangxin knew that Yin Zhaoyang was strong, his magic power had also reached level 96. He had always thought that there was only a slight difference between him and Yin Zhaoyang. However, he was also one of the few people who could clearly see the battle just now. At this moment, he understood that the difference between him and Yin Zhaoyang was no longer a slight, but an insurmountable gap. If it was him, perhaps he would only be able to withstand a few more blows. Yin Zhaoyang's magic power contained a mysterious power, which was already in a completely different realm. In the past 50 years, Yin Zhaoyang was the least Supreme Master that appeared on the continent, but the current him was already completely ahead of the others. Ji Zhangxin faintly felt that perhaps this Supreme Master in front of him could already be considered as the strongest in the 5 elements continent. No wonder he would choose to fight 1 against 2, no wonder he was so calm from the beginning to the end. This was strength, the result of true strength. Yin Zhaoyang's right foot lightly stepped on the ground. With two whooshes, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun, who had dived into the ground, were shaken up. When the two of them landed, they stood side by side 10 meters away from Yin Zhaoyang. Sorry, it could only be described as sorry for these two supreme masters of the water element. Shui Mingyue had lost her sleeves, her slender arms were bare. Ling Fengyun was a female, so Yin Zhaoyang was merciful and did not destroy her clothes. However, her dirty appearance was not much better than Shui Mingyue's. Looking at the two of them, Yin Zhaoyang said indifferently, "You two must be regretting in your heart now, regretting that you underestimated me, regretting that you didn't join hands to attack me at the beginning, displaying the effect of the yin and yang dual attribute combination skill, and being defeated by me with my superior magic power, right?" At this moment, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun finally forced out the extreme yang fire that had invaded their bodies. They both knew that they had walked on the line between life and death. At that moment, Yin Zhaoyang only needed to flick his finger to end their lives, not even leaving a trace behind. The shock that the yin and the morning sun brought them was absolutely subversive. They had never imagined that after reaching the level of 9 champions, they would still lose so miserably. Each of them had only made contact with the yin and the morning sun twice, and in those 2 simple encounters, they had already suffered a crushing defeat. Yin Zhaoyang's words were exactly what Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun were thinking. They had a new understanding of Yin Zhaoyang's strength, but even so, they did not believe that if they joined hands, they would not be able to defeat Yin Zhaoyang. After all, the yin and yang dual attribute combination skill of the Supreme Master level would definitely increase their strength by several times. No matter how strong Yin Zhaoyang was, he was only one person with only one attribute. Yin Zhaoyang said indifferently, "I can understand your thoughts. How about this, I'll give you 10 minutes to adjust, then we'll fight again." Adjust, then we'll fight again. These simple words were like 8 sharp knives, stabbing into the hearts of Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingyue. Their dignity seemed to be completely shattered by these words. Their faces became extremely ugly because of anger. Yin Zhaoyang was still indifferent and said, "If you can't even control your own emotions, then there's no need to fight again. You still won't be able to survive 3 moves from me." Almost using all the strength in her body, Shui Mingyu took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the humiliation and anger in her heart. Her face gradually calmed down. Although Yin Zhaoyang's every word was like a bone-scraping steel knife that stimulated them, but what he said was right. If they were in a situation where their emotions were unstable, they would not have a chance. Whether it was the magicians of the Magic Guild or the Magic Skill Guild, all of them had their eyes on the battle in front of them at this moment. As a magician, the pursuit of strength could be said to be the goal of every one of them. For them, the battle between the 9 crowned champions was the key to opening the door to their own cultivation. Such a battle would undoubtedly make each of them take fewer detours in their future cultivation. Therefore, even if they couldn't see the battle clearly before, they still concentrated on it, hoping to feel a little more. The excitement of the victory of the Magic Guild had already disappeared, and the shame of the defeat of the Magic Skill Guild seemed to have disappeared. The battle between Yin Zhaoyang, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun made them feel that in the face of absolute strength, power was nothing. With his own strength, he could defeat 2 supreme being experts. If Yin Zhaoyang wanted to, he could even easily wipe out the Magic Skill Guild, or even the Magic Guild. Was there anything in this world that he could not obtain? Although Yin Zhaoyang did not say a word to these magicians who were watching the battle, he was using his own actions to tell these magicians that as a yin and yang magician, what they should really do was not to pursue power, but how to improve their strength so that they could have the same strength as him one day. Everyone's eyes lit up. The ones who understood it the most were Ji Zhangxin, Shangguan Yinkong, Ji Dong and Fury, who were either supreme being experts or those who possessed extreme demonic power. The simple battle just now had allowed them to see and understand many things. 10 minutes wasn't a long time, it could be said to pass in the blink of an eye. To the Supreme Being experts who possessed powerful demonic power recovery ability, 10 minutes was enough for Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingwei to recover to their peak state. Not only in terms of strength, but also their spirit had become extremely focused. After witnessing Yin Zhaoyang's strength, they would not be careless this time. Ling Fengyun's right hand and Shui Mingwei's left hand clasped together. The moment their hands clasped together, their aura instantly became completely different. A majestic aura blossomed from their bodies at the same time, as if they were the ocean that had an unlimited source of water, or the glacier that was the source of all rivers. A layer of white mist slowly spread out from the place where their hands clasped together. Their previous sorry state seemed to have completely changed at this moment. At the same time, Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingwei's other hand had already clasped together. They raised their hands at the same time and pointed at Yin Zhaoyang. In an instant, a white light that was only half a foot in diameter shot out from their clasped hands and went straight for Yin Zhaoyang's chest. Ji Dong's eyes widened. As a yin-yang dual attribute demon master, he couldn't imagine the effect of the combination skill of two Supreme Being experts. He didn't understand why the yin-yang dual waters would turn into a single white color when they were combined under the extreme demonic power of the 9 crowns level, instead of purple and transparent, just like how his extreme yin-yang fire would turn into 2 colors of black and gold. But he could vaguely guess that this was the true extreme of the yin-yang dual attribute combination skill. Facing Yin Zhaoyang, they had to give it their all. Only by completely defeating Yin Zhaoyang could they wash away the humiliation they had suffered previously. At this moment, no matter if it was Shui Mingwei or Ling Fengyun, they both revealed a resolute expression. Their demonic power source had even completely merged into one. Behind them, the Heaven Empress, which symbolized the water element, and the Black Tortoise, which symbolized the water element, floated clearly behind them. The Heaven Empress stood on the back of the Black Tortoise, like a demon master riding on his own magical beast. Chapter 250. The colors of the two totems, the Empress of Heaven and the Black Tortoise, which were floating behind Shui Mingwei and Ling Fengyun, were the same as the demonic energy released by the two supreme experts. This was the complete yin-yang dual water fusion technique, a perfect fusion in the truest sense. That pure white light seemed to be shooting through the heavens and earth. It wasn't fast, it was even a little slow as it shot towards Yin Zhaoyang's chest. Yin Zhaoyang's expression was slightly solemn. He raised his left hand immediately with his palm facing outward. This time, the color of his palm finally changed. One could clearly see the radiance of the fire attribute vermilion bird condensing behind his back. The golden sun crown on his head also turned into a golden light and merged into his palm. Facing the joint attack of the two supreme water attribute experts, this victorious light lord finally used his full strength. The golden light condensed in his palm. When the white light shot towards him, Yin Zhaoyang's left hand pushed outwards and blocked the attack of the white light. However, at this moment, a layer of thick white mist had already risen around his body. The temperature of the entire verdant grassland plummeted at a terrifying speed. The grass on the ground turned into ice spikes and spread in all directions. It was obvious that this was caused by Yin Zhaoyang's inability to completely resist the demonic energy of the yin-yang dual water fusion technique. That simple white light should not be underestimated. Although it was the simplest demonic energy attack, if it was to be measured by skills, it had already surpassed the existence of a mid-level ultimate killing technique and entered the realm of a high-level ultimate killing technique. However, Yin Zhaoyang had blocked it after all. His feet were still standing there steadily and his expression didn't change at all. His left hand was like a sturdy shield, blocking in front of his chest. In midair, the Fire Dragon King had already stopped its intimacy with its child. It looked towards the battlefield with some worry in its eyes, watching attentively. At this moment, no one could interfere in this battle. If anyone tried to interfere with this battle, Then under the influence of the qi, it would immediately cause the attacks of the three refined ones in the middle of the battlefield to focus on them. This was something that no one could withstand. Even if Ji Zhongxin and his wife joined forces, they would not be able to withstand it. Therefore, they could only watch and wait for the final result of this battle. Whether it was the people of the Wizard Guild or the Magic Skill Guild, they all felt that Yin Zhaoyang seemed to have gone too far. He was indeed powerful. In a one-on-one situation, there was probably no supreme expert who could compete with him. However, at this time, he was facing the combination of two supreme experts of Yin and Yang. He was even arrogant enough to let them perfectly fuse the two water magic to form the strongest attack. If Yin Zhaoyang lost or even died in this battle, then it was completely caused by his arrogance. Looking at the overflowing cold air, everyone could see that although Yin Zhaoyang's demonic energy was strong, it was not enough to contend against the yin-yang dual water combination technique. If there was no miracle, failure was only a matter of time. What was strength? True strength was composed of many elements and was not limited to demonic energy. Because of this, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun didn't dare to relax even though they clearly had the upper hand. They knew that if Yin Zhaoyang had a chance to take a breather, the result of this battle might change. Especially when they saw Yin Zhaoyang's expression that seemed to never change, they couldn't help but increase the output of demonic energy. A person's potential was unlimited. Under great pressure, it was easier to stimulate one's potential. Without a doubt, the pressure that Yin Zhaoyang brought to them was great, even terrifying. At this moment, whether it was Shui Mingyue or Ling Fengyun, they both felt that the demonic energy between them was unprecedentedly harmonious. The degree of fusion was infinitely close to perfection. But even so, Yin Zhaoyang was still standing there steadily. Although the environment outside was affected by the extreme dual water demonic energy, he still stood there quietly. His body was not affected at all. Blocking the attack with his left hand, Yin Zhaoyang slowly raised his right hand. His movement was very slow and he didn't gather any demonic energy in his right hand. He simply raised his right arm straight above his head, clenched his right hand into a fist, and stretched out his index finger, pointing to the sky. Suddenly, for some reason, Ji Dong's heart thumped violently. He seemed to have vaguely sensed something, and his eyes couldn't help but widen even more. The second confrontation between the three supreme experts didn't cause any distortion in the air. It was completely presented in front of everyone. Everyone's attention was also focused on Yin Zhaoyang's right hand. His two opponents were no exception. What was he going to do? This was what 99% of the people wanted to know. Could it be that he still had the strength to launch an attack in this situation? Yin Zhaoyang's indifferent gaze finally changed at this moment. His calm gaze suddenly became sharp. Even Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun, who had suppressed him, couldn't help but narrow their eyes and didn't dare to look at him. At this moment, Yin Zhaoyang's raised right hand suddenly turned white. It was a white different from the extreme dual water demonic energy in front of him. It was an indescribable luster. It seemed to be the white of the heaven jade that Ji Dong had obtained before, but it was even purer and more lustrous. Just as everyone's pupils contracted, an inch-tall white flame quietly ignited on the tip of Yin Zhaoyang's right index finger. There wasn't any magical ripple, and the white flame wasn't very obvious under the sunlight. However, the moment it appeared, Ji Zhongxin, Shangguan Yinkong, Ji Dong, Fury, Ling Fengyun, and Shui Mingyue all widened their eyes at the same time. In the next moment, Yin Zhaoyang made the simplest action. Pointing at the heavens and the earth, his right index finger slashed down with the small cluster of white flame towards the white yin-yang dual water demonic energy in front of him. Time seemed to have frozen at this moment. Everything in the world seemed to have changed along with the slash of his finger. The instant the yin-yang dual water demonic energy that was constantly attacking came into contact with the white flame, it seemed to have turned into an icicle. It froze in midair and collapsed in the next moment. That's right, it collapsed. Just like a real icicle collapsing when it came into contact with magma, the white light disintegrated into bits of faint white light. With Yin Zhaoyang's left palm as the source, it collapsed towards Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingyue. In just a few breaths' time, it had already arrived in front of them. As for the small cluster of white flame that was dancing on Yin Zhaoyang's fingertip, it turned into a white silk-like halo and disappeared in a flash. Boom! This boom wasn't because of Yin Zhaoyang's attack, but because the yin-yang dual water combination of Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingyue had turned into opposites repelling each other. The arrangement of the magical energy between the two seemed to have undergone an earth-shattering change. The magical energy that they released and fused together suddenly turned into an attack towards each other. In the midst of the violent boom, their bodies had already bounced back like cannonballs, and they only managed to stabilize themselves after flying for tens of meters. The white flame on Yin Zhaoyang's fingertip had been extinguished, but he still stood there and didn't leave his original spot. His gaze had also regained its calmness. The silent scene once again appeared on the celestial grassland. Everyone's expression was extremely interesting, but no one could make a single sound. The yin-yang dual water combination skill that the God Empress Holiness Shui Mingyue and the Ascending Light Holiness Ling Fengyun had unleashed with all their might was broken just like that. Just when everyone thought that Yin Zhaoyang couldn't hold on anymore, it was broken. Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun almost spurted out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their aura could no longer merge as one like before. Their injuries were caused by each other. From the beginning to the end, in this second battle, Yin Zhaoyang didn't attack them at all. If it was said that in the first battle, when they were defeated by Yin Zhaoyang 4 times in the 4 clashes, they were still unwilling to accept it and felt lucky. But at this moment, the determination in the hearts of these two supreme water majesties had collapsed along with their combination skill. The Ascending Light Holiness Yin Zhaoyang, who was standing not far away from them, was like an insurmountable mountain. 2 against 1, they still weren't his match at all. Not only them, even everyone present couldn't accept it. Even their mounts, the rank 10 Giant Ice Dragon and Giant Ice Dragon, were already standing there in a daze, not daring to move at all, because they all felt that Yin Zhaoyang could destroy them with just a wave of his hand. When the shock had reached a certain level, no one even cheered. Yin Zhaoyang simply stood there, but it was as if he had become the core of the world. At this moment, Shui Mingyue seemed to have aged a few decades. Her face revealed a trace of sadness. Chaotic flame, is it? Yin Zhaoyang didn't reply and only looked at her silently. Shui Mingyue nodded and said, I understand. Ascending Light Holiness, you are right. I indeed don't have the qualifications to be called as a supreme martial artist with you. You can do whatever you want to me, but Fengyun is only here to help me. Please let her go and let her leave. Ling Fengyun's figure flashed and appeared beside Shui Mingyue. No, Mingyue, since I am here, I am prepared to bear everything together with you. As she said that, she turned to Yin Zhaoyang and said with a ferocious expression, Yin Zhaoyang, since you have such strength that is enough to decide everything, why do you still want to win 2 out of 3 battles? Why do you still want to fool us? Killing people is just a matter of nodding your head. Aren't you afraid of retribution? Yin Zhaoyang said indifferently, do you still not understand? You did not lose to me, you lost to yourselves. The reason why I am doing this today is not to fool you, and there is no need for me to fool you. I only hope that you can realize it yourselves. Like I said before, your hearts are blinded by greed, lust, jealousy, these negative emotions. You have already forgotten the true pursuit of a magician. Even if you obtain victory in the battle against the Magician Guild today, in the near future, you will still walk towards destruction. If I want to kill you, I don't even need to say anything to you. 9 crowns is the level that all magicians dream of, but do you really want this to be your final destination? You have wasted the blessings of the heavens. What is the pursuit of a 9-crown magician? Now I will tell you the answer. It is eternal life to become a saint or a god. Although my age is older than all of you, I only need 100 years at most, and all of you will turn into dust. As for me, I will still remain in this world. The pursuit of external things will only lead you astray. As a 9-crown magician, what is our responsibility? The stronger you are, the greater the responsibility you have to shoulder, and not to use your own strength to seek benefits. Previously, when Yin Zhaoyang said similar words, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun did not listen at all. In their eyes, it was Yin Zhaoyang ridiculing them because of the victory of the Magician Guild. But at this moment, listening to Yin Zhaoyang's narration, there was already a subtle change in their feelings. Yin Zhaoyang had already used his strength to prove the difference between a 9-crown magician and a 9-crown magician. Especially the chaotic fire that broke their yin-yang twin waters, it was like a heavy blow, smashing their hearts fiercely. One step to heaven, one step to hell. Sometimes, the difference between truth and falsehood was just a thin layer of gauze. Ling Fengyun and Shui Mingyue's expressions gradually calmed down, their eyes flashed with the light of pondering. All kinds of past kept appearing in their minds. As a 9-crown supreme magician, most of their past was glorious. In the beginning, they worked hard to cultivate diligently and constantly improved their strength. They were called geniuses. Not long ago, they were willing to do anything to break through their limit. But ever since they entered the realm of 9-crown, their mentality changed. They were no longer calm, they became impetuous. Just like what Yin Zhaoyang said, they were using their own strength to seek benefits for themselves. 9 crowns was not the limit. The pursuit of 9 crowns was immortality. These 2 sentences were like 2 bolts of lightning that struck their souls. They also shocked everyone present. It wasn't just Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun, Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong's eyes were also filled with understanding. Although their situation was different from the 2 water sovereigns, they had spent most of their time in their own emotional world. Yin Zhaoyang's words had not only enlightened their opponents, they had also enlightened them. Everyone's state of mind had received an unprecedented cleansing. Yin Zhaoyang turned around and slowly walked in the direction of Hyoheim and Fury. Meng Shi leaped up from the side with Yin Zhaorong and said, Yin Zhaoyang, when did you comprehend the chaotic fire? Why didn't I know and feel it? Chapter 251. Yin Zhaoyang smiled faintly. Senior Soaring Serpent, chaos is in the heart. I do not have the luck of Ji-dong, but I have perseverance. In truth, with your experience and cultivation, you should have understood the mystery of chaos long ago, but your heart is too jumpy, unable to calm down and comprehend it. Furthermore, there is the innate spiritual sensitivity difference between humans and magical beasts. Soaring Serpent looked at Yin Zhaoyang with a gloomy expression, snorted and said, It won't be long before I too can possess it. Yin Zhaoyang ignored Soaring Serpent, turned to Fury and Ji-dong and said, They will probably need some time to think. The demon masters of both sides will also be pondering over the course of the previous battle. Tell me, what did you 2 comprehend from watching the battle just now? Fury and Ji-dong looked at each other. Fury didn't stand on ceremony either. He chuckled and said, Martial Ancestor, I'll speak first. Junior brother's comprehension is higher than mine. If he speaks first, I probably won't have anything to say. Yin Zhaoyang slightly nodded with a smile on his face. Only when he looked at his 2 grand disciples would he smile. It could be seen that he was very satisfied with his 2 grand disciples. Fury said, In a battle between supremes, it seems to be a taboo to release demon power. In my opinion, this should be to save as much demon power as possible, and at the same time to prevent the opponent from taking advantage of it. After breaking through to the 9-crown level, the demon power has reached a terrifying level, and the 9-crown demon master has a unique characteristic, the body of an elemental user. As an elemental user, not only is it difficult to be injured by the elemental user's body, but it is also extremely difficult to injure a 9-crown demon master. Defending against demon power attacks is not difficult, but releasing demon power will undoubtedly consume more demon power. Even if the opponent uses a super ultimate skill, the defending side will still have the advantage. Moreover, the speed of a Supremes is infinitely close to teleportation. Ordinary demon power cannot easily injure the opponent, and accumulating demon power will give the opponent an opportunity with speed. Therefore, when Supremes attack and defend against each other, they will naturally choose to accumulate, condense, and compress demon power, focusing mainly on close combat. This way, they can fully display the characteristics of their elemental user. This kind of battle may seem simple, but it is actually more dangerous. The outcome of the battle will often be decided in a short period of time. One mistake and both body and soul will be destroyed. This way, a 9-crown demon master's fighting style, if faced with a lower-level demon master, is absolutely destructive. If I were to fight against you, you can completely rely on the body of an elemental user and your control over the elements to get close to me in an instant, break through my attack and defense, and only need one move to destroy me directly. Hearing Fury's words, Yin Zhaoyang nodded his head slowly and said, "Continue. In the first battle, it seemed like you were fighting 1 against 2, but with your ingenious control and rhythm of attack, it was equivalent to each of them fighting 1-on-1. Of course, your absolute advantage in magic power was also the key to your victory. As for the second battle, it was the advantage of the Flame of Chaos. As for why the Flame of Chaos could produce such an effect, I don't know, but I can be sure that you did it to remind them that chaos is the pursuit of a 9-crown magician, so that they shouldn't be short-sighted and only see power and status. Chaos is also our goal in the future. That's all I can see." Yin Zhaoyang smiled faintly and said, "It's not easy for you to be able to see through this fire and combine it with your own analysis. In the eyes of an ordinary magician, a 9-crown magician is powerful and mysterious. In fact, the ability of a 9-crown magician can be summed up in 2 simple words: speed and power. With absolute speed and power, even if there is a slight difference between you and your opponent, these 2 points are enough to win. Every magician's magic power has its own unique characteristic. How to compress, condense, output, and how to use it smoothly without any gaps or delays depends on the individual's own understanding. When you can achieve the lightning in the palm, you are considered to have touched the edge of the 9-crown realm." "Yes, Grandmaster." Hearing Yin Zhaoyang's words, Fury replied thoughtfully. Yin Zhaoyang's gaze shifted to Hyoheim and he said, "What about you? What did you comprehend and understand?" Ji Dong smiled bitterly and said, "Senior has said almost everything that I can say. Grandmaster, I have never thought that a 9-crown magician's battle would be like this. I have always thought that when 9-crown magicians face each other, both sides should release a large amount of magic power from a long distance and bombard each other with magic power, attributes, equipment, and other aspects of the battle. Even if some close combat attacks are added, it is not the mainstream. Today, after watching your battle with the 2 Water Supremes, I finally understand that between Supreme Masters, the complexity will be reduced to simplicity. Just like what Senior said, a Supreme Master's endurance towards the enemy's attack is too strong. If it is a long-range magic attack, it will definitely be the defensive side that has the upper hand. But I feel that close combat is not absolute. Under certain specific circumstances, long-range attacks are not useless. For example, in special circumstances, long-range attacks can also play a very good role in restraining, but I can't say for sure. Only when one has truly reached that realm, perhaps it can be released." Yin Zhaoyang nodded and said, "Nothing is absolute, especially the strength of a magician. Tell me about your views on the compression of magic power and the fire of chaos. You have already possessed the origin of chaos 5 years ago. In this aspect, you should have a more thorough understanding than Fury." Ji Dong said, Compressing magic power and hiding it to attack is actually a kind of individual combination skill. Simply put, it is to stack your own magic power layer by layer in the body, and then condense the stacked magic power at a single point of attack. At that time, the instantaneous explosive attack power will exceed the attack power that your own magic power can achieve. The more layers of stacking, the smaller the compression of the magic power output, and the greater the power of the attack. However, this kind of attack is still very limited for us magicians who are not elementalists, because we don't have the defense of 9-crown magicians. When compressing and stacking magic power, it is almost impossible to achieve it without affecting other movements like the Supreme Masters. However, it can be used as a killing move. Just now when I attacked Tian Xie, in order to achieve the effect of killing him instantly without a chance to resist, I used a similar attack method, compressing and stacking the extreme magic power of dual fire. After the compressed magic power is injected into the opponent's body through a close attack, the effect of the yin and yang double attribute combination skill is also produced in the opponent's body, thus causing great destruction. There was a trace of surprise in Yin Zhaoyang's eyes. He said, "So, you have already mastered this kind of compression method?" Ji Dong didn't hide anything. He told him about how he got the Jade of Heaven on the Holy Evil Island and how he practiced the God-killing strike. He also knew now that the God-killing strike was a unique skill of 9-crown magicians, but he had learned it in advance. After listening to Ji Dong's story, Yin Zhaoyang's expression became slightly more serious. He said, "What a good God-killing strike! You have to practice these 10 skills well. They will be very beneficial to you in the future. If you want, you can teach them to Fury." Ji Dong nodded without hesitation. He said, "No problem, Grandmaster. I originally planned to ask you to teach me the God-killing strike." Yin Zhaoyang smiled and shook his head. He said, "I don't need it. I have already formed a way to compress my own magic power. It's not good to practice something else. Concentration is very important for any magician." "What about chaos? You haven't told me yet." Ji Dong said, "Martial Ancestor, I felt that your usage of the chaotic flame was a bit stiff. If I'm not mistaken, you lost at least half of your chaotic flame in that strike." Yin Zhaoyang's expression changed slightly. He said, "How did you see that?" Ji Dong said, "Because you output pure chaotic flame. In order to break the opponent's ultimate dual water magic combination attack, you should have used your huge magic power of 9 crowns to force the condensed chaotic flame out of your body. Then, you use them as ordinary flames to attack. The meaning of chaos is creation. When the chaotic flame came into contact with the opponent's magic combination, its creation characteristic destroyed the balance of the opponent's magic combination. When the yin and yang attributes could not reach a state of balance, they backfired on each other and defeated the opponent in one fell swoop. However, you should not have mastered the true use of the chaotic flame. Otherwise, after the attack, your chaotic flame would not have weakened a lot. It should have remained unchanged. Moreover, as far as I know, when using the power of chaos to attack, the real appearance should not be the chaotic flame, but the fire of the soul. This is because the power of chaos can only be used after it is integrated with the spiritual power in the soul. Only then can it be used by us and truly display its creation characteristic." Shock. After listening to Ji Dong's words, Yin Zhaoyang's heart was filled with shock. For many years, it could be said that he had been practicing like an ascetic monk. Under constant closed-door training, he gradually touched the edge of chaos. Especially after sensing Ji Dong's origin of chaos and being guided by it, he had obtained the chaotic flame in recent years. However, after all, he had no experience and didn't know how to use the chaotic flame. He could only output it in his own way. At this time, after listening to Ji Dong's words, he really understood some of the mysteries of chaos. The combination of chaos and the soul, the fire of the soul. These words kept repeating in Yin Zhaoyang's mind. Vaguely, he had grasped something. He knew that the door of chaos had finally opened to him at this time. Grandmaster, are you okay? Fury had never seen Yin Zhaoyang's expression change so unpredictably. He didn't know whether it was happy or angry. His eyes were constantly flashing with the light of thinking, and he didn't say anything for a long time. Yin Zhaoyang let out a long sigh, and his expression returned to normal. He looked at Hyoheim with sparkling eyes and said, "Did the woman in the bamboo hat teach you all this?" Ji Dong was stunned. After a slight hesitation, he nodded. Yin Zhaoyang thought for a moment and sighed. "Ji Dong, thank her for me." Yin Zhaoyang thought for a moment, then sighed and said, "Ji Dong, thank her for me. In the future, I will have an epiphany. Thanks to your words today, your growth speed is much faster than I expected. I have nothing more to teach you. You and Fury are the future of our fire lineage. In the near future, the continent is likely to undergo a drastic change. You two brothers must always stay close together to resist the foreign enemies. After this matter is over, I will return to the seaside with your master's wife for closed-door training. If there is anything important, you can come back to find us." Ji Dong and Fury looked at each other and said respectfully, "Yes." Yin Zhaoyang took a deep look at Ji Dong. The top expert of the continent suddenly realized that his grand disciple's fate was no longer in his control, and he couldn't see where his future would be. Just at this moment, Shui Mingyue's voice sounded from not far away, "Your Holiness Xing Guang." Yin Zhaoyang slowly turned around and saw Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun walking over together. At this moment, their expressions were already very calm, as though they didn't suffer a huge blow just now. The two of them came in front of Yin Zhaoyang and bowed at the same time. Yin Zhaoyang didn't stop them and let them bow. Straightening her back, Shui Mingyue said, "We understand Your Holiness Xing Guang's painstaking efforts. Thank you for pulling us back from the wrong path. Fengyun and I both understand. From now on, we will go into closed-door training, and hope to see the door that you have guided us to. If Your Holiness has any need in the future, Shui Mingyue will not refuse." Yin Zhaoyang slightly nodded and said, "You guys can wake up so quickly, it's not in vain. How about this, my sister and I are going to return to the coast of the East Sea for closed-door training. That place is closer to the Saint and Evil Passage, facing the sea. We can guard the entrance of the passage and also cultivate in a quiet environment. If you two are willing, why don't you come with us? I will not be stingy. These years, I have gone into closed-door training many times, and it can be said that I have comprehended some things. Although our attributes are different, maybe I can help you avoid some detours." Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun were overjoyed when they heard this and said, "That's great, Your Holiness Xing Guang, we can't repay you, please accept our bow." While saying that, the two Supreme Masters of Water actually knelt down in front of so many people, and kowtowed to Yin Zhaoyang. Looking at the way they bowed, Yin Zhaoyang smiled again. Of course, it wasn't because of Shui Mingyue and Shui Mingyue's respect towards him, but because he understood that this pair of Water Supremes had finally thrown away all the restrictions of fame and power. Chapter 252. Yin Zhaoyang helped Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun up and said, "Your Majesty, you don't have to do this. We can just spar with each other. Our attributes are different, it would be helpful to spar with each other. Since the two of you are willing to come with us, let's go." "Yes." Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun finally understood what they had wasted. Yin Zhaoyang had sacrificed a portion of the chaotic flame to remind them of the goal of a 9 crowns expert. They no longer had any hatred towards Yin Zhaoyang. Instead, they were filled with admiration and did the etiquette of a disciple in front of him without hesitation. "Brother Zhaoyang, please wait a moment." Ji Zhangxin's voice rang out. He pulled Shangguan Yinkong and appeared in front of Yin Zhaoyang and the other two in a flash. Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong looked at each other and said, "Brother Zhaoyang, I have to reunite with Yinkong today. The misunderstanding back then has been cleared and we no longer have any attachments." Since you two are going into seclusion to research, how about the two of us? With the addition of us, the Earth duo, we won't be a burden to you. Yin Zhaoyang laughed and said, Of course that's a good thing. However, we still need you to preside over the merger of the 5 guilds. We can't just leave like this. Shangguan Yinkong smiled and said, That's nothing. It's been dozens of years and I haven't cared about the matters of the guild. I'm ashamed to say that I've long lost the qualifications to be the guild leader. Shi Luo, I've already passed the guild leader's token to you. From today onwards, you will officially take over the position of the guild leader. Although the Magic Skill Guild lost to us, in the process of the merger, there must be no discrimination. We will exchange pointers and exchange pointers. Guild leader, you. Shi Luo wanted to say something but was stopped by Shangguan Yinkong. Back then, I left the guild because of my own matters. Over the past few decades, you have been in charge of all the affairs of the guild. I've let the guild down, and I don't have the face to continue being the guild leader. In truth, you've already been the guild leader for a long time, so there's no need to say anything more. I've already made up my mind. My stubbornness and self-opinionation have caused the misunderstandings back then to expand endlessly. The misunderstandings between me and Changxin have finally been resolved. In the future, I only wish to accompany my husband. Fellow members of the Magic Guild, I, Shangguan Yinkong, hereby apologize to all of you. Although I will no longer be in the guild, if the guild faces any danger in the future, I, Shangguan Yinkong, will still protect the guild. After saying that, the 6 Supremes looked at each other and smiled. All the previous grudges seemed to have been melted by the chaotic flames of Yin Zhaoyang. The 6 Supremes, who represented the strongest 9-crowned Supremes in the world, soared into the sky at the same time and headed towards the east. Their mounts also flew up and followed closely behind. Only Yin Zhaoyang's Flame Dragon King remained in the sky, hugging the sacred evolution fire dragon as it left reluctantly. No one had expected the final result to be like this. Seeing the 6 Supremes leave, everyone felt a sense of loss. Looking at their gradually disappearing figures, it seemed that the grudges between the 2 guilds had also gradually faded. The Magician Guild and the Magic Skills Guild were bound to merge. Although the Magic Skills Guild still had great strength and both sides did not have Supremes, don't forget that the Prince of Equality, Ji Yunxing, was still here. He was here to be the referee. The outcome had already been decided. The Diamond Core was not to be trifled with. Moreover, Shui Mingyue and Ling Fengyun had already told the Magic Skills Guild to keep their promise before they left. The merger was only a matter of time and specific details. Fury put an arm around Ji Dong's shoulder and said, Little junior brother, you can't run away this time, right? We brothers haven't seen each other for 4 years, we must have a good drink today. Even if I'm willing to let you go, Big Brother Cannon Dragon will definitely not let you go. Ah Bing rubbed his bald head with one hand and chuckled, Of course, I'll let you guys have a taste of my best barbecue skill today. The flaming bar temporarily returned to the core world. Grandmaster and Grandmaster's wife had also left. Ji Dong did not have any worries in his heart, so he naturally would not reject. Ji Dong walked up to Shi Luo and said, Vice President, today's matter has come to an end. Farewell. Looking at the young man in front of him, Shi Luo could not help but reveal a somewhat complicated light in his eyes. A month ago, the reason why he had tried so hard to invite this young man to participate in today's battle was mainly because of the help he could bring. In fact, Ji Dong's influence had even far exceeded his imagination. Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, 2 supreme experts, had come for him. Although the Heavenly Spirit King, Ji Changxin, had come mainly for Shangguan Yinkong, part of the reason was also because of him. Moreover, there was also the Prince of Equality, Ji Yunxing. On the surface, Ji Yunxing claimed to be the judge, but everyone could see that he was biased towards the Magic Guild. If not for Ji Dong, would he have mobilized the entire Diamond Army to participate in the merger of the 2 guilds? One must know that this Prince of Equality was the person with the most power in the Middle-earth Empire. Even the current emperor of the Middle-earth Empire was gradually inferior to him. If Ji Dong was his other grandson, then it was very likely that he would be the next Prince of Equality in the future. The original direct heir, Ji Yejie, had already been adopted into the royal family and became the current crown prince. With just a little thought, Shi Luo could feel the terrifying power behind this young man in front of him. However, compared to this, what shocked Shi Luo the most was still Ji Dong's own strength. In terms of real combat strength, Shi Luo was naturally not afraid of Tian Xie. He was confident that he could easily deal with his opponent. However, when Tian Xie started to throw out magic skill scrolls, Shi Luo knew that it was not so easy to deal with him, especially when Tian Xie started to throw out magic skill scrolls. Shi Luo knew that if it were him, he would definitely not be able to stop him. However, Ji Dong did all of this. Not only did he stop Tian Xie, he even killed him directly. From the beginning to the end of the battle, he had completely suppressed Tian Xie. Shi Luo had to admit that in terms of strength, if other external factors were not taken into account, he might not be a match for this young man who was only at level 61. He was only at level 61. Ultimate dual fire was such a terrifying and strange attribute. If one day, he also advanced to 9 crowns, what would the situation be like? Shi Luo didn't even dare to imagine. The shock that this young man brought him was too great. Vice President Shi Luo Yu. Ji Dong saw that Shi Luo was in a daze and couldn't help but call him again. Shi Luo woke up from his thoughts and said, "Mr. Ji Dong, oh no, I should call you Elder Ji Dong now. I can't thank you enough, and I know I can't keep you here. Let's not talk about anything else. Here's a small gift. Consider it a little repayment from the Magic Guild. You must accept it. The Magic Guild is your home. If you need help in any city, you can find the local Magic Guild for help." As he spoke, he stuffed 2 things into Ji Dong's hand. When Ji Dong looked down, he found that it was a token and a storage ring. He didn't look at what was in the ring, but the token attracted his attention. This token was almost the same as the one Shi Luo used to open the Magic Guild's treasure vault that day. There was no difference in size or style, but there was no small piece of heaven jade in the middle. Instead, it was replaced by a non-attribute transparent gem. Without a doubt, this should be the token of the Magic Guild's elder. He didn't know that this token represented not only the elder, but also the guest elder. In the Magic Guild, it had the same authority as the vice president. Fury chuckled and said, "Vice President, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. I'm also here to help." Shi Luo laughed and said, "Fury, you brat, you still have the nerve to ask me for something? I don't know how long you've had the Elder Token, but how many times have you come to the Magic Guild?" Fury said, "Vice President, do you want to go and have a drink with us? Let me tell you a secret, my little junior is also at the level of a 9-star bartender." Shi Luo smiled bitterly and said, "Don't seduce me. You also know that I'm a drunkard. There are so many things to deal with here, how can I leave? Let's talk about it next time." At this moment, in the sky, the majestic voice of the Fire Dragon King sounded, "Ji Dong." Ji Dong looked up into the sky and saw the Fire Dragon King descending with the sacred evolution Fire Dragon. The Fire Dragon King, Hyoheim, nodded and said, "Thank you. Maotai and Wuliangye have already told me that you and Her Majesty saved them. It wasn't easy for us mother and daughter to reunite. Can you let them return to the Fire Dragon Valley with me?" The Fire Dragon King's voice was very gentle, and it looked at Ji Dong with gratitude. Although the sacred evolution Fire Dragon didn't look like a fire dragon anymore due to its mutation, it understood what kind of price Ji Dong and the Flaming Bar Queen had paid in order to hatch their children. She could also feel the flame of chaos burning in the sacred evolution Fire Dragon's body. Therefore, when she spoke to Ji Dong, it was completely in a negotiating tone. Before Ji Dong could speak, Maotai and Wuliangye shook their heads at the same time and struggled in their mother's arms. The look in the Fire Dragon King's eyes changed slightly, and it said sadly, "Children, you, Maotai and Wuliangye, were only at the 8th level, so naturally, they couldn't speak. They could only whimper. The dragon race had their own way of communication." The Fire Dragon King listened to them and couldn't help but let out a long sigh and said, "Girls really can't be kept at home when they grow up. The attraction of the Flame of Souls made them unwilling to leave you. Ji Dong, are you willing to accept my invitation to the Dragon Valley and meet the children's father?" Go to the Dragon Valley? To be honest, Ji Dong had some thoughts about this mysterious place. However, he didn't agree to it because to him there were more important things to do. "I'm sorry, Senior Fire Dragon King. I'm afraid I can't go with you to the Dragon Valley. Maotai and Wuliangye, you can go with Senior Fire Dragon King. How about I wait for you at the coast of the East Sea before the battle between Saint and Evil begins?" Hearing Ji Dong's words, Maotai and Wuliangye shook their heads violently at the same time. They looked at Ji Dong with pleading eyes. Through the connection between their souls, Ji Dong could clearly feel their attachment to him. No matter what, they weren't willing to leave his side. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel a little troubled. The Fire Dragon King sighed and let go of the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's right wing. With a flash of light, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon had already arrived at Ji Dong's side. Its two large heads fought to be the first to rub against his body. It seemed that it had only been a short time away from his side, but it was already filled with longing. The Fire Dragon King said, "Back then, it was all my fault. I didn't take good care of the children, and that bastard Feng Shuang took advantage of them. How can I force the children to do things that they don't want to do?" With a flash of red light, a fiery red dragon scale the size of a washbasin flew in front of Ji Dong. Ji Dong subconsciously reached out to receive it. "Ji Dong, the Fire Dragon Valley welcomes you at any time. Chaoyang is in seclusion, and I have to return to the Fire Dragon Valley to deal with some clan matters. When you're free, you must bring Maotai and Wuliangye back to visit me, okay?" Large drops of tears flowed down the corners of the Fire Dragon King's eyes and dripped onto the ground, melting the soil. Maotai and Wuliangye whimpered a few times. They looked at the Fire Dragon King with obvious reluctance, but they were even more reluctant to leave Ji Dong's side. They refused to leave him no matter what. The Fire Dragon King raised its head to the sky and let out a long roar. No matter what, she had finally found her children. Furthermore, after the mutation, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon would have an even greater future than her. It looked at the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon with reluctance, then spread its wings and soared into the sky. Just before it left, Hyoheim asked, "Ji Dong, can you tell me why you gave my children names like Maotai and Wuliangye?" Hearing the Fire Dragon King's question, Ji Dong was speechless. He couldn't possibly tell the Fire Dragon King that he had given the children the names of the wines, could he? "Senior Fire Dragon King, after the battle between the holy and evil ends, I will definitely bring Maotai and Wuliangye to the Fire Dragon Valley to see you." The Fire Dragon King Hyoheim nodded and said, "Focus on the scales, and you will find the path to the Fire Dragon Valley. As a mother, I beg you to take good care of my children. When you arrive at the Fire Dragon Valley, you will definitely repay me." Ji Dong smiled and said, "Senior, don't worry. Maotai and Wuliangye are not only my magical beast companions, but also my family. They also have the same bloodline as me." He wasn't exaggerating. In the process of incubating Maotai and Wuliangye, his blood played a crucial role. Although this body belonged to the Five Elements continent, after Ji Dong's soul entered this body and fused with it, everything in the body had already changed. If it wasn't for his blood, Maotai and Wuliangye wouldn't have mutated into the appearance of the Huaxia Divine Dragon. Once again, Hyoheim nodded. The Fire Dragon King spread its wings, turned around, and left. Moutai and Wulyangya let out a long roar at the same time. The fire dragon king in the sky replied with a long dragon roar and gradually disappeared into the distance. Ji Yunxing sat upright on the back of the diamond dragon. Hyoheim said, I have to go as well. The two big guilds can be considered to have a perfect ending. Ji Dong, do you want to return to the king's residence with me? Ji Dong shook his head and said, No, grandfather. I still have something to deal with.